Martin Allen, former West Ham midfielder, Brentford and Barnet boss to boot. And our top stories this afternoon. Gareth Southgate is set to make 6 changes for England's game against Bulgaria this evening after that disappointing result and performance against the Czech Republic. And I suspect James Maddison won't be anywhere near it. We're going to be talking about his little casino exploit, and we're also talking Mo Farah. He flopped in Chicago after accusing the British press of an agenda against him. He seemed to imply a racial aspect to that agenda as well, so we'll be getting our teeth into that. And we're also talking Ronnie O'Sullivan, who says he's now going to play 80% of his competitions in China. But Martin, when we're talking Gareth, 6 changes, it's an awful lot. Is he just rotating, or is there a worry there that he doesn't know his best side?
Freshen up the team. Good squad of players. Trust in his players. Happy to play anybody in the squad and still get a good result, I think. Does he know his best team yet? His best starting 11? I very much doubt it. But there's plenty of time to find that. There's plenty of games ahead. But freshening it up with these new players coming in, I think is a really good move.
What makes you say he doesn't know his best 11? Because I'll be honest, when I asked you that question, I was expecting you to say, of course he does, don't be cheeky. Why do you reckon he's not certain?
No, he's got so many young players. He's introduced so many young players, new players into his squad. And with Mings coming into play tonight, these people have got to get an opportunity to play a few matches. Declan Rice has now played 6. And I think he's done well in a couple of them and not so well in a few others. And it takes time for people to really settle in. Mason Mount, I think, made his debut the other day. So that was an okay debut. It wasn't a great debut. So it takes time at international level, the top level of football, to really show your stuff. And he won't know that till, many, many games down the line.
Well, let's hear it from Gareth Southgate himself. He admits that the team may have lost focus in that defeat in Prague on Friday.
Maybe we were all focusing a lot on next summer, talking a lot about next summer, answering questions about a home tournament. And I've always maintained the first thing is we have to qualify, and we haven't secured that qualification yet.
How worrying is that, Martin, this idea that the players got a bit complacent in what was still a competitive game?
Yeah, well, it happens, doesn't it? Everybody's talking about winning the World Cup, myself included, and doing so good. And it did look as though the edge of the drive and desire and passion that they've played with in every game with a great attitude wasn't quite there. And we've all seen, in all levels of sport, if that's not quite right at the top level, then you do struggle. And it was a little bit lacklustre. That's the word I would use, lacklustre. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen. You've got kids playing. Sancho, how old's Sancho? 18? 19. Mason Mount making his debut. We've got all these young players that everybody's for years and years and years has been saying, please introduce the young players. We've done it. And now the manager gets hammered for playing them when they don't get a good result. It's going to take time to build this, just like the Germans a few years ago, and just like Holland a couple of years ago. They never even qualified for the Euros, did they? Or was it the World Cup? Because they put all these young players that are now in their first team and doing so well for Holland. So it takes time, and it takes time to build it.
It does indeed, and he's certainly still building that back line. Questions were raised in particular about the defence against the Czech Republic, and here's Southgate on how he's going about improving things at the back.
We're always thinking about what's the best way to play to get the best out of our strengths but hide our weaknesses. We've always done that over 3 years, so we've tried various formations. We'll always continue to make those assessments, and the priority is to get a good performance.
There were concerns before the game, specifically about Danny Rose and Michael Keane. Now, both of those players, for me, were terrible. Not just not good enough, actively shocking. We're hearing that Keane is going to lose his place and that Tyrone Mings is the man to come in and replace him. Of course, Mings, not only 6'5", he's also left-footed, so he does offer you something slightly different. But does he deserve to be ahead of the likes of Fikayo Tomori and Joe Gomez in that pecking order?
Well, I've seen Tomori play, but I haven't this season seen Mings play. I know Villa have had quite a good start, a little bit indifferent with a few good results and a few not good results. But since he's been at Villa, he really has been a tower of strength within their squad. So perhaps he does deserve the opportunity. And the other day, defending set plays was definitely England's weakness. So to bring another strong header of the ball into that zone in the middle of the 6-yard box where they were attacking it with such desire and virtually winning every header. You can see that Keane has been a weakness for Everton, and Everton's defending set plays has been poor. And now with England, and with any level of football, any level, any age group, defending set plays is absolutely crucial.
I think there's a point about passion there as well, because no one wants to see teammates fighting on the pitch. But when I saw the clash between Mings and his teammate El Ghazi for Aston Villa, I did think from an England perspective, oh, hang on a minute. Here's a lad who really, really cares, who's going to stand up for himself and is going to fight for the shirt. I liked what I saw there. But Guy Watts has had to keep me on a bit of a leash for the first 7 minutes of this show to stop me from going all out for James Maddison. If you haven't seen this story and you're listening at home, James Maddison was sent home from the England squad with a virus. Now, you would expect in that scenario, nice cup of chicken soup, get the hot water bottle out, tuck yourself up in bed. He was pictured in a casino, and he was pictured in a casino literally while the game was happening. He wasn't watching it. Now, for me, Martin, that is an absolute disgrace, and I'm genuinely angry about it. But what is your take?
Johnny, first and foremost, it's not, in my opinion, an absolute disgrace. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't fighting. He wasn't assaulting anybody. He wasn't going and smashing up a taxi or blah, blah, blah at
dropping
3
his
o'clock
chips
in the morning. Yeah, it wasn't that. The bit that I think I'm not quite 100% sure, but I haven't heard from his side of the story either yet. So it's easy just to make this quick opinion right now. He reported for duty. He had a virus, and so they sent him home. That is normal because you would not want that virus to spread to all the other players. So you get the player away from the staff and the other players as quickly as possible. It was only 24 hours after he left the England training camp where he was at home and he went to the casino, whether it was to gamble or to watch the game or both, or if his mates were going and he felt okay. If his mates were going and he felt okay, they sent him a text, "Do you fancy coming? We'll pick you up if you're feeling much better." You can see how he said, yes, I'll go and do that. However, the fact it was only 24 hours after leaving the squad, I think he could have really chosen and made in his decision a little bit more sensible and said, I think because I've pulled out or I'm out because of a virus, I haven't been feeling well. It's probably best for my recovery so I can get ready for Leicester City's training to stay at home on the sofa, watch the game at home and just chill out at home.
Well, we've got a poll on our Twitter profile at Love Sport Radio. Get on there, give us a follow, get voting. Following this little casino incident, should James Maddison be in the next England squad? Yes or no? I've voted, and I've voted no. And I'll tell you why. It's not so much about the going to the casino, because 24 hours, you can get a bug for 24 hours, right? And be okay 24 hours later. It's more than not watching the game. This is a guy who, okay, he's been in 3 England squads. He hasn't played for England. How many young lads grow up in this country dreaming of that opportunity, dream of the chance of maybe playing for England? For me, what this looks like with Maddison is a bloke who is so arrogant in his own ability that he's going, yeah, well, I'm going to get 20 England caps, whatever happens, so why should I bother playing against Bulgaria? It's absolutely shocking. If you're genuinely ill, you genuinely care about playing for England, and you're committed to being part of that team, you sit at home, you watch that match, you are terrified. You are terrified about how good or bad the bloke who's taken your spot is,
but
and you
how
think
do you
about
know
how the
he
team
wasn't
works.
watching the game? There's TVs all over casinos from when I went in one about 8 years ago. There's TVs in casinos where you can watch any sport that's going on because they bet on them all the time. So you don't know. You think he wasn't watching the game. He would have been watching the game. So I don't really think you can carry that one at him. And sort of absolute disgrace and wanting to play for England. He reported for England duty. But as with any club or any country, as soon as a player reports any type of virus, whether it be staff, manager, players, that person, you are out of there as quick as possible in a taxi and on your way home double quick. So he's gone home, probably started to feel better the next afternoon, tea time. I don't think he made the right decision by going to the casino, but I certainly wouldn't put it up at that end of the scale where that's him finished for England. He's never going to play again.
Call me a cynic, but for me, James Maddison has not gone, oh, I really want to watch the England game. I'll head to the casino. Anyway, let's hear what he had to say just a couple of months ago.
I always say it, and I don't just say it because it's cliche or I do interviews. I love football. I always watch football, and in the build to the kickoff, when they go through all the games, analyse the goals, that's the time when me and my dad sit down and watch and talk football, because it's a game. That's why we love it.
It wasn't on Friday night, though, was it? Doesn't sound too clever. Now, we'll talk about this more later in the show.
Maybe his dad was in the casino with him and they were doing detailed tactical
Maybe their
work.
telly had broken and it was the only place they could watch it. I don't know. But the thing that I think we talked about this a little bit last week, and I want to do a little bit more on it later in the show. It was on Thursday, I think, that the news of his withdrawal was announced, and my initial reaction was actually disappointment, because I love watching James Maddison. I'm a Man United fan. We're still being linked to him. I don't think we're going to buy him. I don't think he'd probably be that interested in coming. But the point is, he's the sort of player I want to see us being linked with. I think he's really, really exciting to watch. And from an England perspective, I think that along with someone like Mason Mount, I think the idea of the two of them competing for a place, I think is really exciting. But it's a year now since James Maddison was first called into a squad, and he still hasn't been capped. It's not like he's about to go off and play for another country, but I just wonder if he's one of those players, and there have been a few in recent times, who for some reason it just doesn't happen with at England level. And I hope it's not the case, but I'm starting to worry it might be.
There's something just come into my mind, Guy. I wonder if he's turned up for training with the England squad, trained and seen that he's not playing in the team, and Mason Mount has been picked in the team before him, and then he's thought to himself, I'm not sure what word I can use here.
Can't be bothered.
Sod this.
Okay.
How can Mason Mount, who's played 5 Premier League games, get into the England team before me? I should be playing instead of him. I ain't happy. I'm going to tell the doctor I'm going home.
Do you really think that's possible?
I don't know for sure. Of course I don't know, but I'm only on the outside and I'm looking in. He's not been picked. Mason Mount's playing in his position where he has been playing well. I agree with you, Guy. He has been playing well this year, and he's got a couple of good finishes. He's got something about him. I'm not 100% sure about his attitude as well, and only snippets of information are coming back about the tournament in France with Adi Boothroyd, where they weren't 100% about his attitude. Only snippets, and once again, I don't actually know, but I'm guessing Mason Mount has been given a bib to start in the 11. He's been stood over on the right-hand side in the other group not starting, and he might have looked at that and thought, I cannot believe that this has happened to me after the great start I've had with Leicester. I'm not happy.
If that is what James Maddison's done...
It's an if, though, Johnny.
It is an if. It's absolutely an if, but I'm interested by the suggestion. And if that is, for me, that is even worse. That is even more unprofessional, because if you're a top player and you think you should be in that team, work hard, get in that team, don't go to the casino.
This is Love Sport.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centres, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
Can you save money on your car insurance? Chris did with a little help from a spokesmansaid.com. Getting real people, real savings.
I'm Chris from Leicestershire, a truck driver. I went on a spokesman's set, which was very straightforward and easy to use for an old git like myself, and saved over £300 on my car insurance.
Find quotes from over 100 leading insurance providers at a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
I have my own radio station too. It's called Love Trump Radio, the only station 100% fair and 112% factual.
This is Love Sport.
Just a reminder, when we're talking James Maddison, we have got a poll up on our Twitter. That's at Love Sport Radio. After that casino incident, should Maddison be in the next England squad? Yes or no? But looking beyond football, this was arguably the greatest weekend in the history of long-distance running. Eliud Kipchoge, we talked a lot about it. He smashed it. He got the under 2 hour marathon for the first time ever. And it wasn't just in men's marathon running that it was good news, because Brigid Kosgei broke Paula Radcliffe's women's marathon record. She smashed it, actually. She managed 2 hours, 14 minutes and 4 seconds. So we should be sitting here going, wow, Eliud Kipchoge, under 2 hours. That's brilliant.
Johnny, who's Elliot's coach?
It's a good question. Not Alberto Salazar. And it's interesting you should bring that up, because we should be sitting here going, what a brilliant achievement, even though it doesn't count as an official attempt. What an extraordinary thing to have made a human body do. No, we have to talk about Mo Farah.
Mo Salah, he runs a marathon. Mo Salah.
He probably could. So Mo Farah, who for me, I have to say, has behaved absolutely disgracefully. He was asked about his own situation before running the Chicago Marathon. He refused to condemn the behaviour of Alberto Salazar, who was, of course, his coach from 2011 until 2017. He attacked the media and said, they've got an agenda against me, I blame you rather than him. And he even seemed to suggest that there was a racial element to his treatment in the press. Let's hear from him now.
There's a clear agenda to this. I've seen this many, many times. And I know where you're going with it. I've seen it with Raheem Sterling. I've seen it with Lewis Hamilton. I can't win whatever I do.
Right, Martin, let me talk you through my thought process when I was listening to this interview with Mo. Right, I get I think you've got an agenda against me. And I'm thinking, do they? And then I hear him say the words Raheem and Sterling. And then Lewis and Hamilton. I think, Mo, you've lost me, mate. You have absolutely lost me. Because he is spot on to cite those guys as examples of black men who've been treated unfairly in the media, partly because of their race, either consciously or subconsciously. I can give you countless examples of young black men where that is the case. Jesse Lingard is another one. But I'm sorry, Sir Mo Farah is not, has not been, and probably never will be one of them. You're running there with Sir Mo on your chest. You are loved by the nation. You're being questioned, mate, because you were coached for 6 years by a man who has now been proven to have been a shameless cheat. Now, no one is accusing you of cheating, but you can't go, why are you questioning me? Is it because I'm black? No, it's not. It's because your coach was doping.
Is that what he said then, Johnny? Well, in that little interview, is that what he said?
He's not said it in so many words.
So what's he said, though?
He said, I've seen it before with Raheem Sterling, referencing, of course, the treatment by Sterling of the tabloid press, and Lewis Hamilton, the similar kind of thing, where you get these successful, often younger BAME men who get a kicking more than the likes of James Maddison do, say, in the paper.
So what, he's bringing himself into that bracket?
He's effectively saying, you did that to them, you're doing it to me. The subtext is, if I were white, you wouldn't be doing this. Simple question, what ethnicity is Lance Armstrong? He obviously was doping. We don't know if Mo Farah is. There is certainly no allegations against him. But this idea that investigating someone or even just questioning them because of an unsavoury association somehow is grounded in prejudice is absolutely farcical.
Well, perhaps he's got something to hide, Johnny. So he's putting up a little smoke screen.
I don't know. I'm not sure he even does. I think he's genuinely outraged to be questioned, because if you were a clean athlete, you'd hate it.
But if you are in trouble and you've been doing tricky manoeuvres behind the scenes to make yourself faster...
Which may well have been legal, by the way, if there were any manoeuvres at all.
Well, maybe. It all when you get interviewed, he's bound to come out and get on the attack and go all defensive. He's bound to. He's stuck by that drug cheat coach, didn't he? Even though he was under investigation.
Well, effectively, yeah, and he was given multiple opportunities in this interview to condemn him and to say, you know what, I am annoyed with Salazar. He was asked, do you feel let down by him? His response was, no, I feel betrayed by you guys. I feel let down by the interviewers. And you think, Mo, no one is accusing you of this, but surely he has to recognise that there are going to be questions. As you say, Martin, the first allegations against Salazar came to light in 2015 when BBC Panorama investigated him. Mo Farah knew about those and chose to stay working with him until 2017.
Yeah.
I am sorry, but after making that decision to turn around and go, why are you questioning that relationship? Is it because of some kind of prejudice? No, it's because you worked with a man and continued to work with a man who you knew was under investigation for cheating. It's not a hard one.
No, I wonder, Johnny, over the next, year or so, how Sir Mo is going to be getting on away from his previous coach, Salazar. Will he be winning gold medals and world records and getting first in all these competitions? Or will he start now just to slip down back into the pack? I wonder.
Well, it certainly didn't go well this weekend, did it, guys?
That's it, Johnny. That's it.
Do?
Came 8th, Martin. And I think of the 10 marathons, the actual race marathons he's now run, it was his slowest time. And this was a race he won the year before, so it's not like it doesn't suit him as a course or any argument like that. And obviously, and I don't think it incriminates him in any way to say that everything that's happened in the last 2 weeks has had an effect. But it clearly has. You know, he, as he will claim he is, and as the evidence suggests he is, completely innocent of everything, and it can still have justifiably had an effect. Obviously, the scrutiny he's been under, the extra, focus that will have been on him, negative focus as well in like the Salazar stuff, that is going to have had an effect, both, I suspect, mental and physical. But I think at the time it's come, at a time which has probably been the single best, sexiest weekend of long distance running that we have ever had.
Ever.
Let's be quite honest, ever. For the men's, for the first sub 2 hour marathon to be run and for the women's world record that stood for 16 years to be smashed. Wow, for one of those things to happen would still have us talking about it. For both of those things to have happened, we'd definitely be talking about it. And then you throw in Mo Farah, and by the way, Galen Rupp, who of course is another long-time, person who's worked with Alberto Salazar, who has had accusations against him.
He?
He's the guy that came second to Mo Farah in either the 5 or the 10,000 meters back at London 2012.
Right.
The American guy, and they had that photo, the three of them together, Mo, Alberto Salazar, and Galen Rupp. Galen Rupp pulled out of this race. He seemed to have some sort of injury problem, wasn't clearly fully fit, and Mo came 8th in the race. So both of them, two of Salazar's highest profile runners, had really disappointing days, and it just seems that at the wrong time Mo is on the wrong side of what is ultimately a quite glorious time for long distance running. While Eliud Kipchoge, for example, and I will
How
find out
old is he, by the way?
34, I believe he is.
When I saw the pictures of him afterwards, I thought he was like 44.
He looks quite old, doesn't he?
Does,
but
doesn't he?
He's literally got a few miles in the legs, hasn't he? So I
he
think
must
we'll
have
let
had
him
a
off.
paper round when he was young.
Have you seen the figures? He did an 100-metre sprint in 17 seconds, over 400 times in a row without a break. I think if I tried to do a 100-metre sprint now, I would probably do it in roughly 17 seconds, actually, and I would be knackered for about a week
But
afterwards.
them long legs you've done, you get it quicker than that, boy, wouldn't you?
I'm not sure I would. I'm really
It'd only
not
be
sure.
4 strides. You just can't do them very quickly. No, Johnny, you're quite right to bring that stat into it, because I think for you and me and a lot of other mortal people listening at home, sorry if that is the bracket you're in, but I'm afraid it is for most of us, that is one that I think makes it a little bit more understandable understandable because most people haven't run marathons. If they have, they've done it in roughly 3 to 4 hours, or maybe slightly more, 4 to 5 hours, all very respectable times for amateurs, for mortals. But to say it's running 100 metres, I think 422 times in a row, is it? You're like, oh my God.
That's unreal, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of people who aren't in terrible shape would probably just about be able to manage a 17-second 100 metres if they, occasionally exercised and that kind of thing.
Well, Guy, if we had to do a 400 metres at virtually full pace, that is a blower, isn't it? That is a real blowout.
Brutal, yeah.
And that's just 4 times.
Right,
so imagine doing it, what do you say, 400?
Yeah, 100 metres 400 times, or if you want to do it 400 metres, it would still be over 100 times. So it is absolutely remarkable. I don't think we should lose sight of the absolutely incredible achievement that Eliud Kipchoge has managed this weekend, and of course Bridget Kosgei as well out in Chicago. That record of Paula Radcliffe's had stood for a long, long time, and no one had ever even got within, I think, 80 seconds of it. So to smash it by 80 seconds herself was a remarkable achievement. But it's interesting, this one, because Mo's claims of an agenda, it's divided opinion a little bit. Eni Aluko, for example, the England women's footballer, she tweeted in reply to one of the videos that was posted of Mo claiming that there was this agenda. She said, "Why on earth are the journos asking Farah about the drug case of another athlete? For what purpose? He doesn't accuse them of racism. He says there is a journalistic agenda," which there is, because every question pertained to everything other than running. That's what she said. Rob Draper, football writer for the Mail on Sunday, replied to it. He says, "It's the drug case of his coach, mentor, and the man who guided him to 4 Olympic medals, gold medals at that as well. The ruling said that coach broke doping rules. Should British media just give British athletes and UK athletics a free pass on this? As a lawyer," he says to Eni Aluko, "you must recognise the legitimacy of the question." And I think that they both have points to a degree. I think what Eni Aluko is getting at is that the questions, certainly in the videos that we've seen, seem to be almost only about that. When Mo Farah, being the athlete he is, can probably legitimately ask to be talking at least partly about running, about the Chicago Marathon, about other things.
You're a journalist, and you know
that the only thing people really want to know about is this Salazar stuff.
Yeah,
I agree, Johnny.
I'm sorry, Mo, but you go to the big story. What is the big story? The Nike Oregon project. It closed this week. Salazar still appealing. That is the big story. Unless Mo had won the marathon in Chicago, no one cares about his running on the day. We're interested in the backdrop.
I think that's true, Johnny, and I think if he can't accept that or realise that, then he's less intelligent than he's given credit for, and I think it's fair to say he's not given credit for being a particularly intelligent man. I think possibly he even plays up to that sometimes, to sort of use it as a deflecting tool to sort of give the impression he doesn't almost understand why they'd want to, because he can't seriously not understand why there is so much interest, can he? I mean, he just can't seriously fail to realise why it is that there's all this interest. If he wants to accept, which he has gladly in the past, the adulation of sports fans, British sports fans especially.
He's got to face it both ways, hasn't he,
You do have to put up with it both ways, Martin. And I say all he needs to do, he could have at least been a little bit more open and a little bit more forthcoming in criticism of a man who has been given a 4-year ban for doping violations. Alberto Salazar, it turns out, has been a terrible influence on the sport. I condemn absolutely all doping violations, and I'm appalled that other athletes that he was working with were being given these treatments. That, I don't think it would have killed him to say.
No, I agree absolutely. And the weirdest thing about the way Farah addressed the Salazar situation is, regardless of refusing to criticise him, he didn't sound shocked. And he didn't sound angry. Now, this isn't at all to say that Farah isn't completely clean. As I say, there are no allegations against him, and he's never failed a drugs test. But if I had genuinely believed that my coach was clean, and he'd led me to believe that, and I had put my reputation on the line backing him up, which Mo has done, and he was then found guilty of doping violations, I would be furious. Now, the first question I would ask Mo Farah is, where is that anger, mate?
Love sport.
Join former Premier League goalkeeper Richard Lee and Patrick Christys for Love Sport Breakfast every weekday morning from 6:30.
I look at Sven and he's got this certain persona.
Yeah, and he tells quite a funny story about how he beat Fergie 3 times in his career.
And then after all that, he still says, well, I really like Fergie. What a nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Love Sport Breakfast every weekday from 6:30. Listen on digital radio, on the app, and watch the show live on our YouTube channel.
Love sport.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centers, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you. the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
You all right, mate? Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Tenna men. Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're right.
Secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're in.
Tenna men. Keep control.
You're in.
No.
If you've ever had to get out of your car on the side of a motorway, you'll know how it feels. Just imagine what it's like to be working on a motorway. So please, drive carefully, follow the signs, stick to the speed limit, stay in the correct lane, and keep a safe distance from the car in front. People working on our roads are making them safe for all of us. Keep the roads safe for them. Highways England, connecting the country.
This is Love Sport.
It's the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. You're with me, Guy Watts, and special guest Martin Allen. And Guy Watts has all your latest sporting headlines and weather.
I do, Johnny. Yeah, brain injury charity Headway has criticised Wales manager Ryan Giggs over the way a head injury to Dan James was handled in last night's Euro 2020 qualifier against Croatia. Giggs suggested James was acting by staying down after a mid-air collision, and the Man United winger eventually returned to the pitch after passing a concussion test. We're speaking to Luke Griggs, the Deputy Chief Executive of Headway, a little bit after 4 o'clock, so stay tuned to hear his thoughts on it in more detail. Reading have appointed former Wales international Mark Bowen as their new head coach. He was previously sporting director at the Championship club. Bowen also used to be assistant manager to Mark Hughes at a number of teams, including Man City, Stoke and QPR. They sacked, of course, Jose Gomez last week. In Rugby World Cup news, Ireland centre Bundy Aki has been given a 3-week ban after being sent off against Samoa on Saturday. That suspension, of course, rules him out for the rest of the tournament. And Roger Federer says he listened to his heart before confirming he'll play in the Olympic tennis tournament next year. The Swiss great already has a gold medal that he won in the men's doubles at Sydney in 2000 and a silver from London 2012. The Tokyo Games take place in July next year, and we'll have more on all the latest tennis, including an incredible tournament victory for Coco Gauff with George Belshaw from metro.co.uk in just a moment.
Love Sport.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centers, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
This is Love Sport.
Coco Gauff is quite extraordinary. She's a 15-year-old American tennis player, and if you haven't heard of her by now, I'm not quite sure how you've managed that. She rocketed to prominence over the summer. She beat 5-time champion Venus Williams in the first round of Wimbledon, became a star overnight, and now she's gone one better. She's become the youngest player to ever win not ever, in the last 15 years to win a WTA title with victory in the Linz Open. Now we are joined on the line by George Belshaw, who's a tennis journalist for metro.co.uk. Afternoon, George. This is extraordinary. This is absolutely spectacular. How far can Coco go?
Well, I mean, sky's obviously the limit. I mean, what is worth saying is that a lot of these players who have won these tournaments at 15 have, not gone on to reach the dizzying heights that some expect them to. And even someone like Martina Hingis, who had a lot of success as a teenager, she kind of ended her singles career by 22. So it's not necessarily guaranteed that we're looking at her and thinking, she's going to have a career like Serena Williams and be challenging her Grand Slam titles. But you do look at her and you just think, if your head stays right, she seems to have a really good family around her, a really good team. If she keeps focus, which is difficult in the sporting world, as we all know. There's all sorts of temptations, money, sponsorship, things that can make you not focus so much on your career and stuff. But we all think she'll win Grand Slams. We all think she can be world number one. I don't see any reason why she, if she was fulfilling her potential, there's no reason why really she couldn't be looking to get to double figures in Grand Slams. She's that naturally talented. But equally, it's not worth putting that sort of pressure on her at this stage because so much can happen. She still is 15, has a lot of improving to do, but such an exciting talent. And as you say, if you don't know who she is, you must have been under a rock or something because she's already a massive, massive superstar. She's crazy for 15.
Well, Georgia, as you mentioned, she's brilliant, but other people we've seen have success on this scale when they're still kids haven't necessarily done the business. Coco has emulated Nicole Vadisova, who was 15 when she won her maiden WTA title in 2004. Vadisova is now 30. Tell us a bit about what became of her.
Well, I think you've answered your own question. I don't think anyone really knows. I mean, well,
I'll be honest, I haven't heard of her.
Exactly. I mean, I hadn't until I was doing my research this week on kind of the first player to do it. She was a bit before my time. So to be perfectly honest, I just think she's had a fairly steady professional career. But when you're winning a title at 15, people are probably thinking, right, you're going to be winning lots of titles and you're going to really kind of shine and become a top 5 player at least and, challenge at Grand Slams. And that's clearly never happened to her before. And there were other similar names I'd looked back through history, many of which I'm struggling to remember off the top of my head. But, there are just so many examples of this sort of thing, a player rising to prominence. Even last year, actually, you can say there was a girl called Marta Kostyuk, a young Ukrainian, who you'd probably say, who on earth is that? But she had a run at the Australian Open when she was 14 and 15, and everyone's expecting her to rocket up the rankings. And I think she's now 100 places lower down than when she was before that run in Australia. So, it doesn't guarantee quick success, and I'm sure Kostyuk can go on to have a good career as well. But sometimes it comes a bit too soon. You're not ready to deal with it. And in Coco's case, and what's so different to these other examples we've just mentioned, it really is the superstardom that's coming with it as well. Every single set of eyes in the tennis world will be on her for every single match now. She is already probably one of the top 10 most famous tennis players out there.
And you'd have to say she deserves it, George. She beat Yelena Ostapenko in the final, who won the 2017 French Open. So she's not had an easy run here. And of course, that's largely down to her brilliant natural talent, but also in the final, it was partly down to her dad. In that last set, she was having a bit of a wobble, and her father, who's also her coach, came on court and basically said, listen, calm down, stop rushing it, you're going to get there, play it like it's a practice match, take your head somewhere else, and you can do it. We've seen arguments about on-court coaching in the past. Now, this was obviously a great bit of paternal wisdom, but should this be allowed more often? George, you with us?
Oh, hi. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, you with us? So in terms of coaches, whether they're the player's dad or not, giving advice of this kind on the court, should we have a more lenient eye for this generally?
I mean, I've always been pretty anti-coaching, I have to say. I mean, and there are two reasons for that. I, first of all, like the idea that they're kind of out there on their own. There aren't too many sports where you can say, the player has to truly come through and do it on their own. But actually the other argument that I think is stronger is the problems it causes lower down in the game. Tennis is already such an expensive sport. For low-ranked players to have a coach is a huge advantage, and it kind of promotes, very, very rich kids having a really strong advantage against those who can't afford a coach at a young age or can't afford a coach when they're lowly ranked. And that, that doesn't really sit right with me at the minute. It's already too much kind of moving towards the world's elite can only afford to play tennis, the 1% or whatever. So I don't think adding coaching in that environment is necessarily great. But as you say, what we saw yesterday, it is good TV. It is interesting. I mean, I'd have loved to kind of see in a parallel universe, would Coco have won that match without that intervention? that was probably the first time we've really seen her almost seem like a child in many ways. You know, she was suddenly really nervous, the kind of naivety of the situation. You know, she was 5-love up and still had plenty of time to win that match, and as it happened, did win it in the next game. But it did feel like she was on the verge of a bit of a meltdown and going to crack under the pressure. So, yeah, it's a fascinating argument. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm as strongly in the camp of absolutely it should not happen coaching, but I do think for the main reason I outlined in the lower parts of the game, it's actually quite problematic to say for completely all of tennis you should be allowed coaching. So I think it needs to be maybe just at the very top level if they are going to introduce it.
Thanks for your time, George. Great to speak to you. George Belshaw there, who is a tennis journalist for metro.co.uk, talking about the brilliance of Coco Gauff and the lovely coaching, I have to say, of her dad, Corey.
The line was, you're trying to sprint to the finish line, we're going to walk there. Was that right?
It's great parenting beyond tennis coaching. Imagine
it's cheating, Johnny. The coach can't walk across the court. Don't matter how she's in an adult competition. You can't just have someone walk across the court and say, Coco, steady down, darling. All to play for. You got $1 million riding on this, Coco. Just take some deep breaths and let it all go.
Can I just
it's
say...
illegal. They're not allowed to do that.
Doesn't sit right with me.
You're right, but if Martin Allen had walked across the court and said that in that voice, you'd probably have panicked even more. I'd have been terrified.
That's true. I don't think that would have come under
Calm
good
down.
parental coaching advice, would it?
Come on, darling. It's $1 million riding on this. You've got to win the next point. Come on!
No, Martin.
They're not supposed to have coaches. Imagine at Wimbledon, centre court, that little bit that they sit on up on the side, and someone jumps over, climbs through the crowd, down that bit of wood, over the side little fence, starts walking across the court. At Wimbledon, you can't have that.
Right, what you're doing, you keep hitting the ball into the net. It's got to go over it. Okay, over it. Yeah, it would sort of diminish it a little bit. I think, no, it wouldn't sit right with me. I wouldn't like to see on-court coaching, but there is a sort of growing sense, particularly in the women's game, that it seems to be creeping in a little bit here and there. It'll be interesting to see whether there is much of a change there. Just one or two other bits worth pointing out. Dan Evans, officially the new British #1 today. Well done to him. Of course, just about a year and a half ago, he was kind of at rock bottom, unranked after his ban for taking cocaine.
Well, I was about to say, the question on our running order is how high can he go, which I would suggest is a slightly dodgy question to ask of Dan Evans, but very nice to see him back.
Not intended to be tasteless from me there, but I suppose it could be construed as that. But he has done exceptionally well to get such a high ranking on his return. He's now up to 43 in the world, which is 2 places off his career high, which was number 41. And Roger Federer, as I mentioned in the headlines, he still doesn't have a singles Olympic gold medal, but at the ripe old age of 38 or 9, he's going to be competing in Tokyo next year, so that'll be worth keeping an eye on. An exciting bit of news for tennis fans there.
Very exciting. Worth keeping an eye on Love Sport Drive as well. We're with you till 7.
Giving your team a voice. Love Sport Radio.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Henna men. Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're right.
Secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're in.
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
There are fewer than 20 days to get ready for Brexit. Find out what you need to do to prepare now at gov.uk/Brexit.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centers, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
I know my IQ is fantastic. I took a test and the results came back negative.
This is Love Sport.
Ronnie O'Sullivan is not a man who's afraid of a controversial comment. The English Open starts tonight. He's going to be competing against Jamie O'Neill, and he's going to be back at the K2 in Crawley, where last year he had some other juicy things to say about that venue. He said it's such a bad venue. It's a bit of a hellhole. I've just done an interview and all I can smell is urine. It's just got no atmosphere in there. So, of course, Ronnie's going to be delighted to be back at the K2. But he might not be playing his snooker in Crawley or indeed the UK for all that much longer, despite previously criticising the amount of travelling that is required for pro snooker players. He's now saying he's going to play 80% of his competitions in China. And the question we're now asking is, why might that be?
What's that Des'ree song? Money don't make my world go round. I'm reaching out to a higher ground. I think that's what Ronnie O'Sullivan was trying to give the impression of in December 2018. He said he was ready to go and form a breakaway Champions League style snooker tour because he was unhappy with a number of events on the calendar, the travelling required. We've heard for years, we've had Barry Hearn on this very station talking about, of course, president of World Snooker, talking about his relationship with Ronnie O'Sullivan. Loves him because he is the game's only real box office rock star, but my God, does he frustrate him as well, because every other week it seems he has some sort of threat to retire, to form a breakaway league, and the point is you can just about get away with it. But we've spoken to snooker pros here on this station, you see them on the TV saying it as well, they get frustrated with him as well, because Ronnie just takes things into his own hands, and he does say something different nearly every time he opens his mouth. And this revelation that he's going to go off and play more in China, it's like, what? Hey, where's this come from? And what you can link it to, of course, is the money, the prize money. We're looking at it here.
God,
Johnny,
you cynic.
I'm
Someone
older than
playing
you.
sport in China for money.
I'm older than you, Johnny. No, you'll come
Johnny,
to learn
you want
these
to see
things.
the figures.
Go on, then.
Well, the English Open, then, that you mentioned, the one down in Crawley. Imagine an event in Crawley having prize money of 400 grand, but it does.
You'd have to pay me 400 grand to go there,
yeah,
to be fair.
I thought we might. But over in China, you've got the World Open. Prize money, 772 grand. The China Championship, 750 grand prize money. And the International Championship in China, imaginative names they've got, haven't they? 800 grand prize money there. The only events with bigger prize money than the Chinese ones are the Triple Crown, the so-called Triple Crown events, the World Championships, the UK Open, and the Masters, which O'Sullivan has won in total combined more than any other player.
And do you have to play a certain amount of events in this country to qualify for those three big ones, or not?
You would qualify for those. The Masters is the world's top 16 players. It's a sort of it's a non-ranking tournament, actually. It's just for the top 16 in the world. The other two have quite elaborate qualifying systems, but you can qualify. You obviously come in at a later stage and qualify, and the higher your ranking is.
Okay.
So he wouldn't rule himself out of being eligible because he'd still have a world ranking if he was playing on the tour. But obviously, you need to be playing a certain number of tournaments on the calendar each year to keep your card, if you like, and to obviously keep your world ranking and all that sort of thing. So this is just, I think, you know, it can't be that he's only just discovered the prize money's greater. Maybe he is, for some reason, in more desperate financial need than he has been in the last years. I don't know. Maybe they...
It's 2.3 million, Guy. That's a lot of money for those three events in China.
It is. I mean...
He'll probably win two of them at least,
Do you think that there's probably the incentive, a carrot being dangled and an appearance fee being offered to him? We know in tennis, for example, that happens a lot. Players are paid often more than the prize money for winning just to turn up and be there. They can lose in the first round. Roger Federer, come and have 100 grand for playing in our tournament. If you win the thing, you only get 50 grand. He can be out in the first round. That's how it works. You know, you might think it's outrageous, but that is often how the tournaments keep surviving.
Well, that's going to sell to the
names.
television, isn't it?
Well,
to have
exactly.
Ronnie O'Sullivan playing in China. Can you imagine how big that's going to be? It's massive in China, isn't it?
Massive, and it is already big, and it is still growing, and it's a massive emerging market for them. I was reading, by the way, just earlier. We'll maybe talk a little bit more about it later. Nico Yanaris, who Arsenal and Brentford fans may remember the name of, an incredible story. He has gone out to play for a team in Beijing, and because I think his maternal grandmother was born in China, he's qualified to play for China. He's become the first naturalised Chinese player to play for the national team. He's even got a new name, Li Kei, because he has to have a Chinese name to play for the...
Lucky and a goalkeeper.
When I saw this story, I remember this breaking a few months ago. I thought it was a wind-up. I thought it was someone having a bit of fun with Nico Yanaris' Wikipedia page. But no, he's actually made 3 appearances for the China national team.
He's doing pretty well. Yeah, he says he's having the time of his life. I think, all right, fair play to him. Well done. He's not only just gone there for the money. I'm sure the money's good, but he's fully embracing it. He's become a Chinese footballer.
And also, that will be very, very helpful for Beijing Guan, who he plays for, anymore because they've got strict rules on how many foreign players you can have. So Nico Yanaris is not going to count as one of them.
Johnny, you could get a game out there. Change your name.
I don't think I could, mate. I could change my name to anything.
What name could you change to? A Chinese name?
No one would call me
Long leg.
No one would call me up for any team in any context,
Bit
unfortunately. Well, the nationalisation point is an interesting one because it sounds like Nico Yanaris has actually gone to China because, firstly, he's got links to the country, and secondly, he sees it as genuinely furthering his sporting career because he's playing international football. For Ronnie, when we see the cold, hard statistics of the prize money, it looks a little less complex than that. So do we believe
But Johnny, why was he saying a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I don't like the number of events now in China. The demands on the players and the travelling is too much. I don't like it. I want to cut down. I might even retire. It's not like, my point is, it's not like they've just introduced new big prize money.
No, but Ronnie O'Sullivan is someone who's been very open about his struggles with mental health, for example.
Yes.
And it might be the case that a few years ago he physically or mentally wasn't really up to all the jetting around, so there was no amount of money that made it possible. Whereas now, if you're feeling a bit better, suddenly you can get out there and the money does become appealing.
Maybe he's got a very expensive psychologist.
Well, maybe. But this idea that he really enjoys travelling to China, maybe he does, and it's perfectly possible that he enjoys travelling to China and likes the money. But let's be honest here. Come on. Like, when these guys go, when Oscar goes, I've gone for a new footballing challenge. No, you haven't.
Are you saying that just now, winding you back, Johnny, that Yanaris went out to China because it's part of his heritage and his mother or someone was born there, and he's gone there back to China because he enjoys the China life?
Well, he is playing international football for China.
Johnny's gone there for money. There ain't no other way. How much would he have been earning over here at a club like Brentford? 300 grand, 350 a year. What's he going to be getting out there? Unbelievable stacks of money. The difference will be so significantly massive.
Yeah, there probably is an element of that. And going back as well to the whole K2 Leisure Centre in Crawley, it does make me think, it is funny because they were furious because obviously it's a big deal for them to be hosting the event. And he said, his quotes today before the tournament got started were, well, I hope they've sorted it out because I don't think they were too happy with what I had to say last year.
It is the nail in the coffin, isn't it?
The point was
really?
A lot of people said that it just wasn't true. And Ronnie, it's probably fair to say, been flexible with the truth in the past. But I think the problem was he'd done one of his post-match presses or interviews in a corridor near a bathroom. So it was entirely possible that the door opened at the wrong moment. He got a whiff. Maybe he just lost. I can't remember what the result of his game had been. And it obviously got great headlines. But the point is, you also read about it being at somewhere like a K2 Leisure Centre in Crawley. I haven't been, but it doesn't scream glamour, does it? It doesn't scream...
I'm sure it's lovely this time of year. Imagine the frustration, though. Imagine you're the person who runs the K2 in Crawley and you think, this is brilliant.
No such thing as bad publicity.
Well, before he said anything, you're thinking this is the perfect opportunity to really put ourselves on the international stage. We have got Ronnie O'Sullivan, the greatest snooker player of all time, coming to the K2, talking about the K2. He gets there and goes, yeah, it smells of wee.
Only Ronnie O'Sullivan could do that. Only Ronnie O'Sullivan. And then we'd still be talking about it a year on.
I don't think he'd be using the word we either.
No, and I mightn't have done in a different context.
Worst place you ever played football? Like the place that you would think, oh God, not there. The changing rooms are just awful. They stink of you know what.
York City.
Player or manager?
Away. Manager. The actual toilet is in the dressing room and it was made of brick. And the bit before coming down from the ceiling.
It was made of brick.
Coming down from the ceiling, there was like a 2 gap for 2 breeze blocks which would fit it in.
Yeah.
And at the bottom, the door was halfway up, so you'd be doing a 1 or a number 2 in the actual toilet, and it was within the dressing room. You could hear over the top of the breeze blocks that oh no, and the wee-in bit was in a trough built into the wall, and it went down. Oh no, York away.
Did you get a result?
Yes, I think we did. When we left, that was the result.
It all sounds very French. Well, maybe Ronnie O'Sullivan should be careful what he wishes for. It sounds like it gets a lot worse than the K2 in Crawley.
Love sport.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. This means that travelling to the EU will change. You'll need to check online if your passport is valid for travel to Europe. If you're planning on driving, you'll need to check if you have the right documents to drive. and make sure your travel insurance covers all your healthcare needs. To keep your trip on track, check what you need to do at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centres, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
When looking for the best possible deal for his car insurance, Jim went on a spokesmansaid.com and saved hundreds.
I'm Jim. I'm a radio presenter based in Glasgow. I couldn't believe how expensive the car insurance for our Citroen C4 Picasso was going to be from my existing insurer. I went on a Spokesman Said and saved an incredible £600. Just amazing.
Find quotes from over 100 leading insurance providers at a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
We've got a top-notch hour coming up for you on Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. Martin Allen already mocking me, and we've not even started yet. We're going to be talking about the England game tonight. Gareth Southgate to make up to 6 changes. Does he quite know what his best side is? We're also going to be talking to the Deputy Chief Executive of concussion charity Headway UK. This comes after Ryan Giggs appeared to dismiss an incident which saw Daniel James sustain a head injury and come straight back onto the pitch. Various people, not least former player Ryan Mason, really not happy. And we're also going to be taking a look at the NFL in addition to continuing our discussion of Mo Farah and a brilliant weekend of long-distance running. But first, it's time for the news.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 4. Boris Johnson's first Queen's speech is being criticised as a political stunt with a possible general election on the way. He used the historic state opening of Parliament to again insist Brexit will be happening on the 31st of this month. New bills on crime also featured, including longer sentences for certain criminals. But Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn says that's not enough.
I hope that alongside the tougher sentencing, the government will also recognise that too many people are in prison on very short sentences for non-violent and non-sexual offences.
A terrorist who tried to kill as many people as possible when he ploughed into cyclists and police officers outside the Houses of Parliament has been jailed for life. Sally Cater crashed his car in August last year. He'll spend at least 15 years behind bars. It's understood one of Britain's worst paedophiles who abused up to 200 Malaysian children has been stabbed to death in prison. Richard Huckle died yesterday at HMP Full Sutton in Yorkshire. PC Andrew Harper, who was killed while on duty in August, has been described as exceptional as hundreds turned out for his funeral. The 28-year-old died while responding to reports of a burglary in Berkshire. Crowds and uniformed officers lined the streets of Oxford ahead of a private service. The newlyweds' colleague at Thames Valley Police, PC Jordan Johnston, read a tribute.
This is how I remember you. Your smile was infectious. Your humour relentless. Even in the darkest of times, you made me laugh. Your personality shone through in everything you did, and I'm so very, very proud of you.
Protesters have blocked access to Barcelona's airport after 12 former Catalan politicians and activists were jailed over the region's bid for independence in 2017. Riot police used batons to push them back. And Sir Cliff Richard is going to tour to mark his 80th birthday next year. He'll be kicking off in October. That's the latest. I'm Andy Hayes.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive.
Good afternoon, it's the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts and special guest Martin Allen, former West Ham midfielder and Barnet and Brentford boss. We're with you till 7 and our top stories this afternoon. Gareth Southgate is set to bring the changes for England's game against Bulgaria tonight, with Tyrone Mings set to make his England debut, and Mo Farah flops in Chicago after accusing the British press of an agenda against him on a historic weekend for marathon running. Mo, I have never heard such a load of rubbish. But Martin Allen, we are talking England, we're talking Gareth Southgate, and let's forget about the paper talk, forget about the rumours of all these changes. If you were picking the team, coming off the back of a bad performance and a bad result against the Czech Republic, what would your England team look like?
Well, there's not that many changes he can make. For me, though, I'm going to go totally different here, Johnny. An alternative England team. And I think the goalkeeper, Pickford, can be brilliant or make errors. And I prefer the goalkeeper to be a calmer 7/8 out of 10 rather than a 6 or a 10 out of 10. So I'm going to go for Pope as my goalkeeper. Right back, because of the assists and the quality and the confidence and how he conducts himself as a person, I'm going to go for Alexander-Arnold.
Okay, I think...
Centre back. On the left, I'd play with Maguire. I don't think he's had a great start with Manchester United, but I think probably he's getting used to the fact that the team's bang average and waiting for other players to come in. But I would have to go with him. And next to him, after watching Chelsea play last week, I would go for Tomori. Because he's so quick, Johnny. He covers that area behind the back four so fast. The one doubt I've got about him is defending set plays. Because when I saw him against Brighton, Brighton never really pumped it in the box. I don't think they actually got a corner. And the one free kick wide that Brighton did have, they nearly scored when they hit the crossbar. So that would be a question mark about him. Left back, I'd definitely play with Chilwell. I think he's a fantastic player. I've seen him play once this season and he was superb. My two in midfield would be, at the moment, Rice will get there eventually, but my two at the moment would be Winks and Henderson as two holding midfield players. And in front of them, to do a shift defensively and find pockets would be, after watching him play last week when he was superb for Chelsea, would be Ross Barkley. My three forwards would be Harold Kane at the middle as a centre forward, and on the left, Cashford from Manchester United, and on the right, Sterling. Playing away from home when we might just back off a little bit, I think it might be ideal for Cashford to get in behind when the opposition push up. He, I think, will be hungry to play tonight, and I think we will tomorrow night, and I think we will have a comfortable England victory.
A comfortable England victory, which of course won't feature a certain Mr. James Maddison. He withdrew from the squad with a virus and so tucked himself up nice and warm in a bed, which also happened to be in the casino. He appears to have put his England career on red. And Gareth Southgate has been talking about this. He's been traditionally Gareth, that is to say, very measured with the press, very well behaved, very mild mannered, and he's actually refused to criticise James Maddison. He's at no point said...
Diffused the situation.
He has,
Johnny.
exactly. He's
good
not
management,
said...
I'd say. Good management.
Well, this is your style, isn't it?
But behind closed doors, he might be thinking, why did he do that?
Has he given James Maddison a rocket, do you think? Has he given him a ring and gone, James, what were you doing?
I don't think he needs to do rockets, to be honest with you. I think he'll just manage the situation. He'll be disappointed that 24 hours after leaving the England camp, because he wasn't feeling well, he's in a casino. He wasn't drinking alcohol, and I don't think he was overly late. But still, the image, I think James has probably just got this one wrong. He should have been at home on the sofa, chilling out. But I don't also think it's something over the top to absolutely hammer the player. Probably an error of judgment. I hope it's just an error of judgment and not a petulant move that he hasn't been picked for the team, and I'm going home, and I don't want to go to Bulgaria or wherever they went to the other day. I just prefer. I don't need this. I don't need this.
So I've got a quote here from Gareth Southgate that I think is quite telling. It's quite subtle, but I personally think it's quite telling. I don't know if you guys agree, but the quote in question is, "We never know absolutely everything, but we have a very clear picture of every player, and that's the due diligence that we should always do." And I think, firstly, he makes an excellent point. I think there's probably been a lack of that at times in the past. Someone like Fabio Capello, hard to imagine. I'm not unfairly singling him out, but it is hard to imagine him having very close a personal relationship and personal knowledge of any of the players. It wasn't his style. He was from an old school. Gareth Southgate, very much of the new school. But the idea that they know a lot about the players, what he is saying, I think there is, we know not just about the players and how they play their football, but how they conduct themselves as people off the pitch, in training, in the canteen, in their community work, whatever it might be. We kind of track all of that. And I'm not saying that James Maddison is bad on all of those fronts or even any of those fronts necessarily, but is he less good than a lot of the guys that he's competing with in around the England setup, for example? I think the short answer is yes, and I think that's what Gareth Southgate is suggesting there, and possibly we have no idea what's been said. I think it's entirely possible he's taken a very laissez-faire attitude to this, and he said to James, who apparently texted him to say, by the way, this story's going to come out, he might have just said, all right, thanks for letting me know, James. James Maddison is now 22 years old. He's been playing Premier League football for more than a year. He's been playing England under-21 football for that same amount of time. If he doesn't realise by now, with the scrutiny that he's already had, the praise he's had as well, don't forget, at Leicester, playing a brilliant team, getting England call-ups, that there is more scrutiny on him. You know, as Harry Kane says, he did what he did. It's not the end of the world, but I think it's something he'll learn from, knowing he has a higher profile now. And I often come back to this with England players, with any player really in the top flight, anyone trying to improve, anyone at the earlier stage of their career. What would Harry Kane do? Would Harry Kane have done this? Would Harry Kane have taken order of a big fancy new car like Dele Alli did last week after being left out in England squad? Would he have got drunk on holiday in the summer? I don't know those things for sure, but I don't think he would. And I think that James Maddison has important lessons to learn, and quickly.
I like your little close reading of Gareth Southgate's words.
Do you think it's a load of rubbish?
No, I actually agree with you completely. And I think another telling line of his was, James texted me before the game. I haven't had time to speak to him. My focus was on the players and the match. Now, again, that ties in with this laissez-faire attitude. But I think it almost goes beyond laissez-faire. It's kind of like, OK, James, if you want to end your own England career, do it. Because you made the point. Is he that much better than the people competing for his place? I think at the moment, probably he is. But the next question you've got to ask is he good enough to justify the trouble? If a Wayne Rooney were doing this, you pick him anyway. If a Steven Gerrard were doing this, you pick it anyway. James Maddison hasn't played for England yet, and he is behaving like he's the star. I'm not impressed by it.
No, I can see where you're coming from, Johnny. I can see there's another number 10 that we spoke about earlier that has not been involved. It's Dele Alli.
Yeah.
And is Maddison better than Dele Alli? Would he fit into that group?
Form, yeah.
Has been this season.
I think, thinking about what you've been saying, Guy, that Gareth Southgate has come out publicly and said we know everything about all the players' personalities, what they're like, and how they are in the canteen and the training pitch and the stadiums, community work, and all those things. I think they would have done due diligence. And A.D. Boothroyd took a team, I think it was to Italy,
That's right,
in the summer, and they didn't do very well. And there were rumours of discontent, that some of the players weren't happy and their conduct and behaviour and attitude wasn't quite right. And maybe Maddison fitted into that little group. And I'm not sure, not 100% sure on that one. So maybe now with this coming along and he's in a casino the night after, maybe it might just be frowned upon. And as Harry Kane said, it's not the end of the world, but I just don't think it's a good image once he's out of that squad to be in a casino rather than at home on the sofa.
Just a reminder, we've got a poll on this on our Twitter account, @LoveSportRadio. Should James Maddison be in the next England squad after this incident? For me, Gareth should just leave him out. He shouldn't say anything about why. He should just drop him.
What's it saying at the moment, by the way?
It is saying...
Last time I looked, it was marginally people saying yes, he still should, but it was only marginal. It's an interesting one because clearly it's one that is catching people in two minds. Yeah, get on Love Sport Radio, at Love Sport Radio on Twitter. I think you're right, Martin, to bring in that under-21 squad. Not any England manager. We're not talking about any old England manager. We're talking about the former England under-21s manager as well. This guy knows how important it is in making you the person, the player that you become, what you're like at youth level. And I think Jesse Lingard, you mentioned Dele Alli, I think Jesse Lingard's an important player to mention
as well, yeah.
Because he was someone Southgate worked with at under-21 level, and in a disappointing team that Southgate took to his own European Championships many years ago, I think 6 years ago maybe, Lingard was probably the best player in a disappointing group. He tried his socks off, as I think he always does. He worked really hard, and what do you know, when Southgate comes into the senior job, one of the players he is most loyal to, even when Lingard isn't playing brilliantly for Man United, was Jesse Lingard. Okay, he's dropped him now because his form has been really poor, but the point is you can build a lot of credit and you can easily lose a lot of credit. And I think that James Maddison possibly did more damage to his chances, possibly if there were attitude problems at the under-21s in the summer, and A.D. Boothroyd is reported back that way, and maybe others as well. And it probably wasn't Maddison that was the only one. For a team, for a group that talented, to get 1 point from 3 games was unacceptable, especially in light of all the success we'd had over the last couple of years. I wonder if he had his card marked then. And then in the last 2 camps, he brought Mason Mount on ahead of him in both games in the first international break. And now James Maddison goes home ill, seen in a casino, doesn't look great. Look, I really like him as a player. I want to see him play for England, but I wonder if he is losing ground for non-footballing reasons. I think that's a massive shame, but he's only got himself to blame.
It is. And the thing is, Guy, if you're ill and you can't stay with the England squad, the doctor would send you home straight away. There's no way you'll be allowed to stay at St George's Park or go on a flight with the virus potentially going into the rest of the squad. So you would send him home if there's any doubt. Can you recover quickly in 24 hours, less than 24 hours, to then be going out to a casino? I suppose we've all been there, haven't we, with those sort of bugs and viruses where you do feel, and you can feel better after 24 hours. So perhaps we have to give him the benefit of the doubt, big benefit of the doubt. Perhaps he's recovered. He's sitting at home in the afternoon. He's had something to eat. He's not vomited or had dodgy number 2s, and his mates call up and said, we'll pick you up in a cab, we can go and watch a football, get something to eat, happy days. We have a little play on the poker tables, and you get yourself home by 10:30. Love watching England together, that'd be great. And he might have gone, yeah, that sounds pretty good. So it might be worse than what it seems.
Well, the crucial point...
I doubt it.
Well, the crucial point there is you said love watching England together. The big benefit of the doubt you are giving James Maddison there, Martin, is the assumption that he was watching England in this casino.
Yeah.
I don't believe that he was. I don't for a second believe that he was. And I think that if he wasn't, he shouldn't be in that squad. Because if I was, for example, in that team and taken out of it, I would be watching that game because I would want to know everything about how my replacement was performing. I'd want to know if I could get back in that team. Not watching it shows he is arrogant, he doesn't care about the team, and he thinks there's no one who can challenge him.
Do you watch England play?
Yeah, every game.
I do. And you know when the national anthem comes on?
Yeah.
I stand up and listen to it.
Do you? You sing along in the living room?
Don't always sing, but I stand there and I love it.
It's weird. I do that.
I love it.
Sometimes you get funny looks. I was in the casino for the game
Who
on
cares
Friday.
about
I started
look?
singing. They told me off.
Who?
The people.
No, I don't care. I'd carry on doing it. Was you in a casino?
Always. I was there
You
with
should have
James
been at home.
Maddison.
This is Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centers, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
This is Lionel, another very happy person who saved themselves money at a spokesmansaid.com.
Hi, I'm Lionel from Peacehaven. I took note of what the spokesman said and I saved £484 per year on my energy, and I recommend everybody does the same.
A spokesmansaid.com. Getting real people, real savings. Compare, switch and save with a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
There are fewer than 20 days to get ready for Brexit. Find out what you need to do to prepare now at gov.uk/Brexit.
Exercise. It doesn't have to mean Lycra or a fancy gym membership. All you need is 10 minutes and you. Because a regular 10-minute brisk walk is a great way to get more active. Whether that's walking to the shops or getting off the bus to stop early. Picking up the pace and getting your heart pumping can make a real difference to your health. So, to see how much brisk walking you're doing and how you can fit more into your day, download the free Active 10 app, because there's only one you.
I'm not a snob. I just don't want to be in the same car as my chauffeur.
Love sport.
Well, Daniel James and Ryan Giggs are under the spotlight today after an incident in last night's clash between Wales and Croatia, because there was a literal clash in that fixture whereby Daniel James got a blow to the head from the rather frightening-looking Croatian centre-half Domagoj Vida. Now, Dan James hits the deck and certainly seems to be, for a moment, out cold. He is comatose on the ground, lying on his back. And watching it, it was terrifying. You see him go down and you are worried for his safety. He went off the pitch, supposedly had a couple of compulsory tests with the doctor, but then was allowed back on to complete the rest of the game. Lots of people not very happy with this, not least Peter McCabe, who's the chief executive of Headway. The concussion charity and the Brain Injury Association have released a statement beginning, like most people watching the footage of the incident, our immediate concern was for the player's health. As soon as the incident occurred, he was attended to by the medics, who then determined that he was fit to continue. Although it is argued that concussion protocols were followed, the rules state that if a concussion is suspected, a player must be removed from the game. Well, in this instance, he wasn't. We are joined on the line by Luke Griggs, who is Deputy Chief Executive of Headway UK. Good afternoon, Luke. Thank you for joining us. What's your take on this? What is the Headway line? Should Daniel James have been allowed to finish that match?
I think it's very difficult for us to see from afar, unless there's clear and obvious signs that a player is concussed. And by clear and obvious would mean, for example, if he was staggering or he was clearly looking dazed or confused or groggy or what have you. So when we're looking from afar, it can be difficult without those symptoms. Now, we all saw that footage, and we saw, as you say, Daniel James appearing to be, to suffering a loss of consciousness. And by the way, in concussions, it's only around 10% of times is loss of consciousness a factor, so we can't rely on that solely. But, we saw what we saw, and it was obviously concerning. So then something's either gone wrong here. Either the medics haven't taken this if in doubt, sit it out approach, because I think it's fair to say that you could have suspected, not proven, but suspected a concussion, or, as we found out later, something else has gone on in the fact that the player seems to have been play acting, which is hugely concerning.
And what about those play acting accusations? Because beyond whether or not Daniel James was playing up to the referee, there is then a serious question about teams trying to use concussion regulations as a loophole to gain a sporting advantage.
And that is where we are really concerned. We have been at the forefront of petitioning and lobbying FIFA and UEFA to make changes to better support players and make them more safe. And one of those changes we've been calling for is concussion substitutes. Now, when we've been pushing for this, and we seem to be having some success with that because we now hear that FIFA are considering concussion substitutes in football, one of the things we kept getting told is that teams would cheat and they'd use it for their advantage and they'd fake head injuries just so they can gain an advantage. And before that rule's even been introduced, we've got this cloud that's being thrown across this, and you've got somebody who is being praised by his manager as well for being streetwise and being smart and using his nous and all these sort of things. So basically, it's conning the medical staff. It's putting the medical staff in a completely invidious position, putting them under scrutiny. But also it's a case of, well, look, the boy who cried wolf. You cannot mess around with head injuries. You cannot give this message to other people watching the game that this is an okay thing to do and to to try and gain a tactical advantage from a brain injury. It's hugely dangerous.
And what can football learn from the sport of rugby, which obviously there's far more head collisions and injuries to heads and necks? And I saw one of the Welsh players, I think it was a couple of days ago, as soon as he got hit on the head, he was off the pitch, down the tunnel, and the medics were in there checking him. What could we learn from the rugby?
Well, I think I think it's fair to say that the rugby hasn't got this, sorted. They haven't got it perfect. But what rugby's been doing for many, many years is taking it incredibly seriously and trying with rule changes, assessing how long a concussion substitute should be allowed, and that's been extended. That time period has been extended over the years as they try and actually make it better and safer. Footballers just constantly seems to be having it, just stuck in the mud and not just refusing to act, refusing to try new things. And it's almost as if they're not taking it serious. It's as if concussion is just an issue for rugby. It's not. It's for all sport. Any kind of contact sport should be concussion aware and making sure that it's putting its players first. And that might mean messing around with the precious laws of football, but it's for the players' health and safety, and we've got to put them first.
We absolutely have, Luke. And does this Daniel James incident strengthen the argument for independent doctors? At the moment, the decisions made about a player's fitness to continue are made by the team doctors who are employed by the team. Now, when it's a player like James who goes down, who is one of the 3 most exciting attacking talents Wales have got, a team doctor might feel pressured to go, yeah, he's fine, get him out there. Do we need independence involved just to go, well, hang on a minute, I don't care about the team, I care about his safety?
I think it's a very, very strong call for that, and it's something that we have been saying for a while, and it's not to call into question the integrity of the home team, the team's medics at all. Far from it. It's actually to provide them with a bit of extra support and to remove that scrutiny and to make sure that they're not under pressure. And I personally have spoken to several Premier League physios and team doctors who have actually said that same thing, that they do feel under pressure. If they take their top scorer off with 5 minutes to go when they're 1-0 down, they do feel pressure for their jobs. And that can't be right. They do put their players at the heart of everything. I absolutely no doubt that the medics have got the best interests of their players involved, but we are talking about huge pressure, high pressure stakes, particularly without these concussion substitutes, whereby those assessments can be done and will be done without 50, 60,000 people watching from the stands and just, telling people to get on with the game. So that will help, but I do think that there is a definite role for independent doctors to play in this.
Luke, we've seen other sports lead the way with concussion subs, where crucially the player is allowed to come off the pitch for the tests and then return in place of the substitute should he be declared fit. How far are we from those coming into football, do you think?
Well, I'll say we've been, at Headway, we've been lobbying for this for many years, and the latest understanding we have is that it's very close, and the FIFA are trying to speak to their law-making bodies, and there's so many hoops to go through for such a law change. But we think it's close. We think it's going to come. It will. I mean, we've just seen how much fun and games we're having with VAR being brought into football. So there will be some teething problems at first, I've no doubt, and there will be things to look at. But if rugby can do it, why can't football? It shouldn't be beyond the wit of man to get this right.
It's a very good point indeed. Luke, a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for your time. Luke Griggs there, who is Deputy Chief Executive of Headway UK, talking about concussion and, of course, this case with Daniel James, who finished the game after sustaining a head injury against Croatia last night. Martin, what's your take on this? Because as a manager, obviously the safety of your players is going to come first. But equally, when you've got a star man, you want him to play if he can.
But Johnny, just work that out. Your safety of your players has got to come first. Imagine if your job's on it, Johnny. Your job's riding on it. Last 5 minutes, you're winning 1-0 away from home, and the other team are bombing the ball in the box, non-stop free kicks, corners, crosses. Everyone's back behind defending. One of your players gets an head injury, the best header of the ball. You need him in there to head the ball out. You'll be looking, thinking, please stay on, please stay on. And then he comes off. You can see that a goal from a header. It's a draw. You go in and see the chief exec, and he says, "I'm sorry, that's not good enough. You're getting a sack. You just can't. You get your contract cancelled." And you say to the lad, "Are you all right?" He said, "Yeah, I'm fine, thanks."
And that
he gets on the team coach. You've got to get a taxi home because you've just been sacked. You ain't got no way of getting home on the team coach. You sometimes look around and think, "Oh, if I'd have had him on that pitch for another 5 minutes." Johnny, on the other side of it, when I played at Gillingham, we were top of the league and we had a really good player, brave as, called Charlie Lee. Used to play for Spurs. Charlie had a head injury and the physio went on, came off and said, he's a bit groggy, but he's fine. I said to Charlie, you need to come off, mate, because he wasn't walking properly and he was a bit groggy. And Charlie said, "No, I'm fine. I'm staying on." And he shouted at me, "I'm staying on." Okay, stay on. As the goalkeeper was taking the goal kick, I could see his legs wobbling, very similar to what Vertonghen's legs wobbled last season, if you remember. So the referee stopped the game, and I called Charlie over and said, "Oi, you're coming off." So I took Charlie off. We won the game. I think, though, for the rest of the dressing room and the rest of the players, they respected that instead of me putting the result before my players' welfare, probably stood me in good stead, that they knew that I would look after them if it came to a difficult moment. And I did. Tough one.
It is very tough. And on your example of someone losing their job because they take a player off, that would obviously be terrible. But the health of a player has to come first. If we look, for example, at the terrible situation with Ryan Mason, who had to retire after he fractured his skull in an accidental collision with Gary Cahill, it's not worth taking these risks. And I just wonder...
But sitting here this afternoon, having that conversation about that one moment in millions of games, you can see it sat in the office here this afternoon and chatting like we are. But when it comes to 20-5 on Saturday afternoon and you're playing in a derby crowd, whether it be 400 people in Conference South, the National League, League 2, the Championship, or the big boys in the Premier League, if you're the manager and you're the players and the supporters, you do want your team to win. It don't matter what level you're working or playing or enjoying it at, you want it, you want that result and you want that win. So you can see how it happens. With that Wales one and that young boy, Daniel James, it says on the report that was put out from the chief exec of Headway, Peter McCabe, that the medics gave him the all clear. So if the medics have given him the all clear, then Ryan Giggs, for me, he must have had that conversation with those medics, because there was quite a few of them on there anyway, but there would have been one in charge, and he would have gone to Ryan, I'm sure, and said he's fine to carry on.
Yeah.
And if he's fine to carry on, and Ryan's been told that, and as a manager, then Ryan Giggs will definitely keep him on. If that medic would have come off and said to Ryan Giggs, "Ryan, he's dizzy, he's a bit groggy, but we'll leave him on there," then Ryan would have had a duty to have substituted him straight away. And there's the difference.
And this is the point, because going back to your previous example, in any game, particularly a big game, you want to win. You want the 3 points. You want the bragging rights. And as a manager, you want to keep your job. But do you want any of those things more than the safety of your players? Are any of them more valuable than a man's life, which is the most extreme example? But it is a potential example when we're talking about head injuries. The answer is no. And ultimately, if it gets to a point where you have to risk a result with a concussion sub for 10 minutes, for me, I think you should.
That concussion sub idea, I think that is probably going to be the way forward.
Yeah.
And watching the Welsh rugby team the other day, I think it was a guy called Bigger. That's his name, isn't it? The guy that plays for Wales. He got smashed and his head went... It was like bouncing around on his neck. And within a few seconds, the medics were on the pitch. They got him off and he was jogging, with both medics jogging with him, straight down the tunnel. And the commentator said he's going off to be checked by an independent doctor to see if he's okay. And I thought that was impressive. And surely somewhere along the line, that's got to come in to professional football. But you could say, park football and all other types of football are all at risk when they play because of the dangers of heading the ball and head collisions. I think at the top level, it's a matter of time before it comes in.
I think you're spot on, although hopefully we can keep playing football without everyone wearing big crash helmets. Coming up, we're talking NFL.
This is Love Sport. Join former Premier League goalkeeper Richard Lee and Patrick Christys for Love Sport Breakfast every weekday morning from 6:30.
I look at Sven and he's got this certain persona.
Yeah, and he tells quite a funny story about how he beat Fergie 3 times in his career.
And then after all that, he still says, well, I really like Fergie. What a nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Love Sport Breakfast every weekday from 6:30. Listen on digital radio, on the app, and watch the show live on our YouTube channel. Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centers, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
AsSpokesmanSaid.com is a leading price comparison website that allows you to compare every energy tariff on the market in seconds. We have more deals than any other comparison website offering energy prices, and our impartial independent switching service is free of charge. Nearly 50% of UK households have switched bills, and there are hundreds to be saved. Visit AsSpokesmanSaid.com, as recommended in The Guardian, The Times, and The Sun. AsSpokesmanSaid.com.
There are fewer than 20 days to get ready for Brexit. Find out what you need to do to prepare now at gov.uk/Brexit.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
This is Love Sport.
It's the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive with me, Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts, and special guest Martin Allen. And Guy has all your latest sporting headlines.
I do, Johnny. Yeah, brain injury charity Headway has criticised Wales manager Ryan Giggs over the way a head injury to Daniel James was handled in last night's Euro 2020 qualifier against Croatia. We just had, of course, Luke Griggs on from Headway to explain a little bit more about that. Giggs suggested James was acting by staying down after a mid-air collision. The Man United winger eventually returned to the pitch after passing a concussion test, though. We're hearing as well breaking news. Man United forward Anthony Martial is expected to return to training this week. Could feature against Liverpool on Sunday. An absolutely massive game, of course, for Man United. Reading have appointed the former Wales international Mark Bowen as their new head coach. He is previously sporting director at the Championship club. He's also been assistant manager to Mark Hughes at a number of teams, including Manchester City, Stoke and QPR. Reading sacked Jose Gomez last week. In Rugby World Cup news, Ireland centre Bundy Aki has been given a 3-week ban after being sent off against Samoa on Saturday. That suspension rules him out of the rest of the tournament. We've got some NFL for you, as Johnny said, next after another sellout crowd of 60,000+ people watched the Panthers beat the Bucks at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium yesterday.
Love Sport.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centers, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
This is Love Sport.
We're talking football, not soccer, actual American football, which is coming to London. The NFL is, of course, revelling in this new destination it is found in the new Tottenham Stadium, and it went very, very well over the weekend. We're joined on the line by Anthony Wootton, who's Love Sport's resident NFL expert and presenter of the US Sports Show. Good afternoon, Anthony. Thanks for joining us. What did you make of that game at the weekend? Carolina Panthers beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It seemed to go down rather well.
It did go down well. I think from a game perspective, it wasn't as exciting as the week before. But we were treated to the MVP elect of the NFL. It's Christian McCaffrey. He scored a couple of touchdowns. We had a couple of back and forth. We had interceptions, field goals, everything that you could wish for from an NFL perspective happened in that wonderful stadium that people are just raving about throughout the world.
And the fans of the clubs in America that played at Tottenham Stadium, what do they think of it missing out on seeing their teams play on home territory?
Well, as you will hear this weekend on the American Sports Show, I spoke to a few fans and I actually bumped into the mother of one of the Tampa Bay cheerleaders, and obviously they came over to as family moral support to cheer their daughter on. Ironically, who's a cheerleader, but there we go. But they absolutely love the idea. Obviously, Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans. Tampa Bay gave up one of only 8 home games in their year to come over here, but they absolutely loved it. There were 2 guys who I caught up with at the end of the game. They were dressed head to toe in Tampa Bay Buccaneers clothing. They were Americans, and they traveled over just for the game. I asked them how they thought. Obviously, they were upset with the result, but they absolutely loved the London experience. They loved the fact that their team played at that stadium, and they said they wish they could come over every year.
But what about the ones in America that can't afford that flight over to watch their team play? What about those ones missing out?
Well, when I was over in America last year, I went to one of those storied franchises in the USA. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're very historical. They are the joint most successful NFL team alongside the New England Patriots. They've won 6 Super Bowls, and I spoke to fans within their stadium. I asked them what they make of the whole NFL London thing. Not the experience, but the fact that the NFL are encouraging teams to go out to London and play over here. And I asked them what they thought the whole concept of a team eventually coming over to London, and the fact that we also take games away from them. And there was not one Pittsburgh Steelers fan that I spoke to on that Sunday afternoon over there that was against it. They were all for it. And the reason why they're all for it is because they are proud of the sport. It's the biggest sport in America. They love the fact that it's growing abroad, and they fully endorse anything that helps grow the game. And they think it's quite quirky that over here in London, they're seeing fans become more educational about it. We're learning about it. Fans over here every year becoming more and more intelligent from an American football point of view, and they're fully behind it because they love the fact that this sport that they invented and has obviously grown astronomically within their country is now booming across the pond, as they call it.
It is indeed. Anthony, how likely is it that we're going to have a real London-based franchise here in the foreseeable future?
No, I think it's very likely. They have this thing called the CBA, which is the Collective Bargaining Agreements, and it happens every decade, and the next one is due up in 2021. That's only a couple of years away. So you've got your owners, you've got NFL officials, you've got representatives from the NFLPA, which is the Players Association. And they all get together and they discuss various things from contracts to helmets to how many games are played, and you can guarantee that they are going to talk about London. There are key owners in the NFL. Robert Kraft of the New England Patriots, you don't get much bigger than them. Jerry Jones, the biggest sporting franchise in the whole entire world, the Dallas Cowboys, they're both fully behind a London team. You only need 24 of the 32 owners to vote in favor of a London franchise. It's gearing up to it. And I tell you what, if you were at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium the last couple of weeks and you looked at the facilities there, that place is built for NFL. And it's not built to host just 2 NFL games over the next 10 years as it's contracted to do. It's built with the long-term future in mind. And then, on the flip side of that, we've got the Jacksonville Jaguars who have committed to at least one home game in London every year. Don't forget, Shad Khan, he wanted to buy Wembley Stadium the officials at Jacksonville Jaguars, I spoke to them earlier this year. You would have heard back in April when I was chatting to Shah Khan's right-hand man over here, who heads Jaguars UK. I asked him on Love Sport if, because Shah Khan had pulled out his bid to buy Wembley, whether in the future that any potential deal is in the water. He said absolutely not. In fact, the Jacksonville Jaguars are more committed to London than they have been, and they would be looking at some point in the future going back to the FA with a bid to buy Wembley Stadium. There is no way that the Jags want to play anywhere else other than Wembley Stadium. So if the Jacksonville Jaguars is the franchise that moves over to London, as many people anticipate, they're going to be playing at Wembley. So what happens with Tottenham? Could we potentially have two teams at Tottenham? Or does Tottenham Hotspur Stadium then become an NFL International Series venue where we have 4 games a year there? But you look at the facilities and you look at the amount of money and the infrastructure that the NFL has put into the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, I think there's more than just NFL International Series games going there. So potentially further down the road, could there be 2 London teams? I asked this question to Americans this weekend, and they can't see why not.
Well, quite possibly. Anthony, watch this space. Thank you for your time. Anthony Wootton there, who is Love Sports NFL expert and presenter of the US Sports Show right here on Love Sport. Remember, you can catch Anthony every weekend morning, 7 till 8 a.m. Martin, your family, of course, has an NFL link. Your cousin Clive went over there as a kicker. How did he find that? And when he went, what was your reaction?
Fantastic. What an opportunity it was to go and play and do all that. And Clive was into all that NFL stuff. I can't bear it. I thought it was rugby with, helmets and pads on. Like, we toughen up, you know what I mean? No, it wasn't. It's not for me, all that stuff. And all the stops all the time. It takes hours, doesn't it, to watch it? No, I don't like it. And I don't know how he did, to be honest. No doubt if it was Clive, he could probably score goals over there. But no, it ain't. Yeah, all that NFL stuff ain't for me.
No, and I think this idea of the Jacksonville Jaguars buying Wembley, you can play there. We're not willing to sell you it. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Coming up, more on Sir Mo Farah.
Giving your team the coverage they deserve. Love Sport Radio.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Henna men.
Cage.
Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're right.
Secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're in.
Henna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centers, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
England is the wettest country around, but what do you expect if the Queen's going to reign for so long?
Love Sport. We're talking Sir Mo Farah, who wasn't content with running one of his worst marathons of all time at the weekend. He also decided to get in a scrap with the British media at large. He was asked whether he was disappointed in Salazar. He said, "No, I'm disappointed in you, the media." He feels they're out to get him.
There's a clear agenda to this. I've seen this many, many times.
And I know where you're going with it. I've seen it with Raheem Sterling. I've seen it with Lewis Hamilton. I can't win whatever I do.
And the other question is whether Sir Mo Farah feels tainted by association with Alberto Salazar.
I'm probably one of the most tested athletes in the world, as you saw. I'm always posting on Instagram, other stuff. I get tested all the time, and I'm happy to be tested anytime, anywhere.
Seriously scrappy responses, seriously on the defensive. I am not having the comparison with Raheem Sterling. Right, Raheem Sterling.
Why has he said that, Johnny? Explain.
Well, it feels to me, and I'm about to be spectacularly cynical, Martin, but bear with me. It feels to me that his advisors or the PR company he employs or whichever spin doctor he's currently got working for him has gone, the way you get out of this one is you highlight other examples where young black men in the public eye have been criticised by the press, and some of them have been, by the way, to an extent that white men aren't, and you spin this as some kind of not just agenda but racist agenda, be that conscious or subconscious. But this is a completely different scenario to Raheem Sterling, and it's a completely different scenario to Lewis Hamilton. With both of those men, what we had was extremely talented young black men who were getting a hard time in the tabloids for no reason. Right, and we saw
what
that.
What were they getting a hard time with then?
Well, so there were constant reports that Raheem Sterling had loads of children by loads of different women, which was shown to be straightforwardly untrue. Lewis Hamilton constantly would
What about a machine gun on his calf muscle?
But that, again, was shown to be more complex than it was reported as, because it was a tribute to his father, who was shot and killed in Jamaica when Sterling was a boy.
Yeah.
And so, again, there are these scenarios where Sterling wasn't perfect.
If that was a black person or a white person, then a white footballer who had a gun down the side on his leg would also, that would be highlighted, wouldn't it? Especially with what's going on in around the world and mainly our country.
There would have been questions asked there, but again, there were other examples where black players were treated differently. Phil Foden bought his mum a house, and all of the articles were how brilliant Phil Foden buys his mum a house. And there was another youth player for Man City who was black who bought his mum a house, and the headlines were, how can this kid buy his mum a house before he's played for Man City?
Okay, I'm with you.
There are disparities in treatment of players often by race in this country.
Okay.
Lewis Hamilton hadn't done anything wrong when he got stick for having a private jet. Raheem Sterling hadn't done anything wrong when he got stick for being Raheem Sterling.
I think there's a difference, though, isn't there, between raising valid criticism and questions of people and unfair and unmerited questions.
Well,
and I think that's the difference, because I think actually Lewis Hamilton, in the case of the private jet, did deserve some criticism, some judgment. I think that he had every right.
Papers as well.
Yeah,
Lewis
Hamilton. No, I'm not saying he's the only person who has ever done, gone to quite, extreme lengths to avoid tax.
Was that private jet with his two dogs and their red leather seats? That one.
It was to do with having his private jet registered in the Isle of Man to essentially pay less tax on it. That kind of thing. And there's been other stuff. He's lived in Switzerland. Look, it's not a debate about Lewis Hamilton. It's not a debate about Raheem Sterling, who, by the way, I think deserved at least a discussion to be had about a tattoo of a machine gun on his calf at a time when, as you say, Martin, there is a lot of issues around with gun crime here in this country at the moment. But that's not to say that the portrayal of them in the media, social media, all the rest, and people like that, others too, has gone too far at times. I think the difference here with Mo Farah is that it wouldn't matter what the colour of his skin was. The point is that he is an extremely high profile, extremely well paid athlete who has had the adulation of this country, athletics fans around the world, for the great things that he's done, who now has serious questions to answer because of a connection that he had until quite recently and during the most successful part of his career with a coach who has now been found to have been guilty of all sorts of doping violations. And the point is, Mo Farah isn't even trying to give us any answers. If he came up with any answers or any contrition at all, any sense of remorse, any sense of the fact
regret,
that he genuinely...
It's not regret, is it? It's not the word, because that means would have done it.
Yeah, he might feel that would slightly incriminate him, but he could be, I think, a lot more vocal in criticising the guy who, let's be honest, Alberto Salazar is, or has, through what he's been found guilty of, brought into some question and doubt what Mo Farah has done. Mo Farah should be furious at Alberto Salazar because he is now justifiably getting asked these questions. How anyone,
so
any
Aluko,
for example,
isn't it?
Well, it's not automatic guilt, but it's questions by association, isn't it? It is tainted, I think, because just as it would be in any sport, but especially this sort of individual sport where obviously it is so important, that relationship that one athlete or competitor has directly with their coach, especially with a high-profile, already controversial coach like Alberto Salazar. I remember there were controversies in his own career as an athlete. There have been allegations for a long time against him as a coach. This was a guy that if you really, really wanted, as for example Mo Farah says he does, to steer clear of any sense that you're doing anything wrong, that you're up to dodgy techniques or anything like that, you don't go near that guy. There are other coaches, other very, very good coaches who you can work with, who have had great success in the past. And the problem is that he chose to go and work with him. He stayed with him for a long time. He stayed with him after the original allegations. Yes, he accepts now that he was lying to him, Alberto Salazar, when he assured Mo that the allegations were untrue. But the point is, he stayed there. He was there for 6 years at the Nike Oregon Project under Salazar, and it doesn't look great. And it seems to me that Mo just can't accept it. He just almost willfully will not accept the repercussions of it. He wanted the good, and now he doesn't want the bad that it's come.
Why isn't he angry with Alberto Salazar? Right? I understand not necessarily wanting to criticise someone who is your friend. And I'm sure he is his friend, regardless of what he's done wrong. If you work that closely with someone, you're going to care about them. But for me, if I was working with a coach who there were questions over, and I said to him, listen, Alberto, come clean with me here, because my reputation, my career is on the line. Are you doing anything untoward? And he looked you dead in the eye and he said, listen, I swear I'm not doping. And he had doped. I would be furious.
Yeah.
I would be absolutely raging, because he has betrayed you. He has risked your reputation and he's risked your career. Why is Mo Farah so nonplussed by this? He's like, well, yeah, it kind of happened.
I feel that chat. I reckon they had a chat beforehand, and he said to him, Mo, if you get asked, stick up for me, will you? Because if you don't, Mo,
well,
I might tell my side of the story.
Why is Mo Farah?
Because at the moment, his denials are...
The most disappointing thing to me is it's not just a refusal to condemn and to be angry about it. It's actually turning it back on the journalists who are literally doing their job. The British ones from around the world. Everyone is interested in this. This is massive.
And they're standard questions. They're not outside the box.
The questions, if you watch, and you can go on Twitter and see these video clips, and the questions are, do you regret, working with Alberto Salazar? Are you angry at him for what he's been found to do? Not anything particularly provocative. The normal questions.
Absolutely.
And Martin Allen raises a really good point there. Important to note, there are no allegations against Mo Farah related to doping. As he says himself, he's one of the most tested athletes in the world, and he has never failed a drugs test. But the easiest thing for him to do, if he wants to make this so-called agenda and all of these questions go away, is throw Alberto Salazar under the bus. Go, I am disgusted that he would ever do anything like this. I am ashamed to have ever worked with someone who was doing that, and I am really sorry that I trusted him for as long as he did. Why are you not doing that, Mo?
Yeah,
just say he's a cheat.
It wouldn't,
and we
Johnny.
Can move on.
It wouldn't undo the fact that he worked with him for 6 years. It doesn't, take away any Alberto Salazar influence on Mo Farah, the times he ran and the medals he won. But I agree, it would at least make us think as fans who have, given him so much glowing praise and cheering him on and all the rest of it down the years, make us feel a little bit like we weren't, being mugs to be doing that, because here's a guy who won't condemn his former coach who's been found guilty of doping violations. It's crazy, and it's a shame, because this weekend at the very marathon where Mo Farah was running disappointingly, by the way, clearly it's all taken its toll on him a little bit, running his slowest marathon time. Of course, the women's marathon world record held by Paula Radcliffe for 16 years, that's been smashed. Steve Cram says, I wouldn't be surprised if this record stood for 20 years. Kenyans, by the way, now hold all marathon world records for the full and half marathon. Quite impressive, that. And Eliud Kipchoge, another Kenyan, running under 2 hours. Won't be an official world record, but I think that's neither here nor there, really. If you're running 26.2 miles in under 120 minutes, then in my book, that's worthy of any record you want, to be quite honest.
It's surely it just must be a coincidence that he's run his worst ever marathon. It just must be a coincidence, mustn't it?
It's coincidence.
It must be.
It's the impact of a draining and emotional and tiring couple of weeks.
Yeah, it must be all down to that.
I think it genuinely will be that. I think there will be a huge element of you spend a week stressed, defending questions from the press. You're not going to go out there and perform.
Yeah, it makes you the worst you've ever done. Yes, it does, doesn't it?
But I want to focus on the positives, Martin. I want to focus
What are you
on...
smiling at,
Nothing.
Johnny?
Eliud Kipchoge. When I was presenting the fan shows here at Love Sport, I had mornings on my own to fill. So I ran 5Ks. I ran a 5K every morning for 3 months. And I got a lot better, but the quickest I ever got was a 5K in 20 minutes. It's not that quick, but I was very pleased with it. Eliud Kipchoge did a 5K like 22 and a half times over at 14 minutes a 5K. It is absolutely mad. The man is a freak of nature.
This is Love Sport.
This is Ian Stone. I'm here on Love Sport Radio every Saturday afternoon from 12 till 3. My father said I could have been a professional footballer. My father was a big fan of mine. I was 21 years old and I was playing for a team. My father was the manager and made me Player of the Year.
Oh.
He walked into the dressing room and he went, Player of the Year this year? Well, I think it's Ian. Ian Stone every
You all right,
Saturday
mate?
afternoon.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centers, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
Think the energy price cap will save you money? Think again. You could be saving a lot more on cheaper energy tariffs. Price comparison site A Spokesman Said will show you just how much money you could be saving against your current tariff. Don't throw away your hard-earned money to the energy companies. Check out aspokesmansaid.com and you could switch to cheaper bills in minutes.
Spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. This means that travelling to the EU will change. You'll need to check online if your passport is valid for travel to Europe. If you're planning on driving, you'll need to check if you have the right documents to drive. And make sure your travel insurance covers all your healthcare needs. To keep your trip on track, check what you need to do at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
We've got a cracking hour coming up on Posh Boys on Drive. Going to be talking to former England striker Darius Vassell, speaking to Matt Perry, the former England fullback, about the Rugby World Cup. We've got a marathon expert on the line talking Eliud Kipchoge, and we're also talking to Nick Fry, former CEO of Mercedes.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 5. The Queen's been setting out the government's ambitions for the next year with a big focus on crime and on Brexit.
My government intends to work towards a new partnership with the European Union based on free trade and friendly cooperation.
There were also pledges to lower immigration and give more money to England's NHS. With Parliament now officially back open, the Prime Minister is again promising to get the UK out of the EU by the end of this month.
As we prepare to get Brexit done by October the 31st, we are setting out now our vision of an open, global, free-trading United Kingdom, a high-wage, low-tax economy.
Labour says today's announcements are nothing more than a pre-election party political broadcast. An ex-asylum seeker who crashed into cyclists and police outside Parliament has been jailed for life. 30-year-old Sally Cater will serve at least 15 years behind bars. Krzysztof Torkarski was cycling past at the time and almost got hit.
The car is revving up and there is a car hurtling towards us. And at that stage it looked like I have to run straight away, and everyone tried to do that, so the reaction was instant.
A 32-year-old British man has died in Sofia ahead of England's Euro 2020 qualifier with Bulgaria tonight. Police are trying to clarify the circumstances. A homeless man has been found guilty of stalking Harry Styles after spending months camped outside his house. The One Direction star told a court he was left feeling scared and very uncomfortable. PC Andrew Harper's wife has paid tribute to her gentle giant at his funeral. 800 people have attended a private service for the 28-year-old who was killed while responding to a burglary in August. And thunderstorms are expected to cause flooding, lightning and power outages across eastern England later this afternoon and into the evening. There's a Met Office warning running from Norwich down to Brighton, including London, Chelmsford and Canterbury. That's the latest. I'm Andy Hayes.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker.
This is the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive.
Good evening, it's the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. You're with me, Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts and special guest Martin Allen, former West Ham midfielder and Brentford and Barnet boss. Our top stories this evening. Gareth Southgate is to ring the changes for England's game against Bulgaria tonight, with Tyrone Mings set to make his England debut. And Mo Farah flops in Chicago after accusing the British press of an agenda against him on a historic weekend for marathon running. Martin, I want to focus on Tyrone Mings. Someone needed to replace Michael Keane, but is Mings the right man?
Well, we'll see. He's done extraordinarily well at Aston Villa. When he arrived there, halfway through last season from Bournemouth, he really did get a grip of that whole team and pulled them through to a promotion. And then again, his leadership skills have come to the front. I've seen him do a couple of nasty tackles and challenges. I think he was the one, and I stand to be corrected, that stood on Ibrahimovic's head.
Yeah.
He actually mashed him, didn't he?
Technical
just
term.
trod on his head like it was a melon. It was like, bash, take that. And I think he's had a couple of other moments of madness, which, you can't knock. It's part of life, isn't it, when you get into that sort of level of football. It does happen. But no, he's quick. He's good on the ball. He's a big lad. And we were definitely weak on defending set plays the other night. So it's a bold move by Gareth, but it's one I could see why he's done it.
Well, earlier on, Johnny Gould, chair of the Aston Villa Supporters Trust, said that Tyrone Mings was ready to play international football for England.
He is an assured figure. Mings plays with that little bit of extra time on the ball that a quality player seems to have. And he has emerged from, a serious injury at Bournemouth to a fantastic season in the Championship at Aston Villa. And now, in the Premier League, after a few games, he's really acclimatising back to the top flight where, frankly, he belongs.
Johnny Gould there speaking to Love Sport Breakfast this morning. And Richard and Patrick are back from 6:30 a.m. tomorrow. Now, we're very fortunate to be joined on the line by former England and Aston Villa striker Darius Vassell. Good evening, Darius. Thank you for joining us. What's your take on Tyrone Mings? Is he the man to lead that England back line?
Good evening, all. Yes, interesting. It was expected from my point of view. Is he the man to lead? Possibly not at this moment in time, but he won't be unless he gets the experience needed, playing with, the likes of the people who are already in the team and playing around the manager. It will happen in time. I don't think he's ready yet to be the man to lead it for the future, but I think that he needs this experience to put himself on that path.
He does indeed, and you are, of course, a former Leicester man as well. We didn't see James Maddison in action on the pitch, but we did see him in action at the casino. What did you make of that? If you had been in an England squad and a player had withdrawn with illness and then gone out, how would you have felt?
Sorry, ask the question again. How would I have felt if I was a player or if I'd heard about it?
If you'd been a teammate of his, seeing him at the casino rather than watching the game?
I would have been disappointed having heard that. I definitely would have wanted to find out what the story was behind it, the context of everything. And normally there's a story or there's a reason for these sort of things. It doesn't sound right. It's not a great thing to read, on the face of it, but I'm sure deep down there's something behind that. James Maddison's always struck me as a professional. He's been having a great season. He's obviously one for the future for the England team, and I think that it's important that we don't make the mistake of showering him with negativity and affecting the chances, of him being one of the good ones for the future. It might have just been an honest mistake, but I definitely, as a player, I'd want to know more about it and want to question how he sees himself as a team member, with actions like that.
How do you think Gareth will have handled it? Do you think he will have been quite positive and gone, all right, it's a mistake?
No, I think Gareth would have first found out what it was all about and what happened from his play, and then he would have acted accordingly. I don't think a thing like that would be a problem for Gareth to deal with. I think, the respect that I've got for Gareth as a manager and the respect that I know that he would give his players with regards to putting things right and the opportunity to put things right, I think that's something that will get nipped in the bud really quickly.
And Darius, what do you think of this new look England team that Gareth Southgate has created with players that he brought through the under-21s himself? And they've got so many young players, 18, 19, 20-year-olds making debuts. How do you feel that the team's looking now?
It looks like how it's looked for a long period of time, a team with potential, and I think we've been that for a long time. With me now, I'm getting a bit almost on edge and a bit impatient, and I want to see this final, end product of what, the work that we've been doing, at the FA, at football clubs, in the Premier League, the work that we've been doing to get these youngsters to be the best that they can be. We want to see the end product of that now, and I think I speak on behalf of the football fans as well in that. But at the same time, I am aware of the time that it takes and the experience that is necessary for these lads to truthfully be ready to put on an England shirt and go out there and win something. And I don't think we are there yet. But at the same time, the question that you've asked with regards to looking at the New England team, I feel exactly the way that I felt, 3 or 4 years ago. We've got a great team full of potentially talented players that could one day go and win a trophy for us.
For many years, we thought that someone who would be central to that is Marcus Rashford. He's had a bit of a wobble so far this year. What's your take? Is he a top-class player going through a rough run of form, or was he actually just a hype job all along?
No, he's a top-class player, of course, going through a little bit of an indifference in regards to his form, and it never lasts forever. And the more that he goes through it, the more that he's going to learn, the more experience that he's going to get. I think that for him to go away with an England team and get away from what's going on at his football club is sometimes a good thing. I experienced it myself. I remember not having the greatest time at my football club and then going away, still getting called up for England and just feeling like it was a breath of fresh air. The pressure was different. It was still there, but it was different. And you can go out there with the best players in the league and go out and try and perform some magic for the team. I think that will be the space that he's looking to possibly get his confidence from.
And I think you're probably the best person to answer this question because you were quick, you could play up front, and you could play wide. What do you think, from being in that position yourself, is his best position to play for England?
I think it's either side of a main striker for me. I know he can play up front. He's capable of doing it. But I think that he needs that freedom to be able to roam the channels, cause havoc on either side of the wings, and have the option to choose when he wants to do that. At the same time, the team still having a focal point in the centre.
Right. Interesting. So playing as a 10 off of the striker, like behind Kane or with Kane?
Either side, behind or with, whatever the situation requires at the time against whatever team. But I think the focal point of a striker is Kane. I think he needs to be the one down the middle, number 9, on his own. That's where it suits Kane. He's the best one we've got at that. And I think Rashford needs to be given a little bit of freedom in that England team to go and make things happen.
And we're calling into doubt a little bit, question marks against James Maddison and his trip to the casino for red or black and all that sort of stuff. What was your highlight of your England career? What would you put, and how did it make you feel playing for England?
It's an honour, absolute and utter honour. Unexpected, felt unrealistic, but with the staff that they had in place at the time, you're talking about David Platt and Sven-Goran Eriksson, David Platt under 21s and Sven, obviously the main team. They, put me on the path, left it up to me, obviously, once I was on that path to go and produce the kind of football which made them want to keep picking me. So that was an experience which is invaluable to me. And people still call me up for radio shows today, even to have the odd 5-minute chat since I've been in the England team. So it's always a good thing.
Well, we're very grateful for your time, Darius.
Thank you.
Another former Villa man, of course, Jack Grealish, being talked about by many as a potential star of this England team, actually. What's your take? Do you think he's good enough?
Yes, you talk Jack Grealish. Yeah, certainly he's due his time now. I think that he's proved enough in the colours of Aston Villa what he's capable of, and it would be interesting to see how England function with a player such as Jack, who can speed up the game and slow it down, more importantly, at will. He's still got a lot to learn with regards to international football because he's not as experienced as the others. But like Tyrone Mings, he's going to need those opportunities to gain that experience, and I think that he could be a prospect for the future.
And just finally, Darius, is Dean Smith going to keep Villa up?
Certainly, yeah. I said at the start of the season, I was a bit worried with the way Villa had started the season about my prediction. But yeah, I think there's more than enough talent and experience at Aston Villa now to stay in the Premier League. Sorry, yeah, the answer's just simple yes. Definitely.
Darius, top man, lovely to speak to you and thank you for your time. Darius Vassell, their former Villa, Leicester and England forward, giving his take on this current crop. Martin Allen's nodding at me, and Martin, I'm seeming to do this a lot at the moment, but I've got to admit that you were right. I was wrong. It brings me serious pain. Jack Grealish is good enough. He just is good enough. He is a Premier League player. I've watched him more over the past month. I think I was incorrect. And actually, particularly with this James Maddison situation, when we've got the other promising ball-carrying midfield player for England messing about in casinos instead of potentially watching the England match, Jack Grealish seems to have grown up. We don't see him doing the passing out in Ibiza
He's Aston Villa captain
anymore. He's Aston Villa captain.
Led him to a championship.
Got punched on the pitch by a fan and didn't react. He clearly is an adult footballer and he is good enough.
And Johnny, do you know what else I think about Grealish? He's got a real positive, effervescent character. And if he had to go and play for England, it would be the proudest moment of his life. He would go out there and he would kind of embrace it and bring positive energy into that team, and his quality in the final third. I do think, from what I've seen of him and Barkley, that I would probably put him above Ross Barkley, who is playing well at the moment. He's playing well for Chelsea. He is on a run with Chelsea. I think his quality in the final third, and that position is crucial, that he's going to score goals and make goals. I think Jack Grealish would be fantastic playing behind Harry Kane.
I can't remember a time when we had this many exciting, quite young, but the age is actually slightly irrelevant, but youngish attacking midfield players, attacking players, whatever label you want to use. If you think, we're going to start either Mason Mount or Ross Barkley, who have had good starts this season with Chelsea, tonight, one of those on the bench as well, and not in the squad. And I know that's partly because some of them are out of form, but you've got James Maddison, Jesse Lingard, Dele Alli. You've also got Jack Grealish, also still uncapped, but you probably can't imagine that being the case for an awful lot longer. And by the way, I don't think Grealish is even the best midfielder in his own team. I think John McGinn is an absolutely fantastic player. A hat-trick for Scotland before half-time last night, admittedly against San Marino. But that's by the by. Jack Grealish is another really exciting player, and I feel like you've both made good points about his character, the way he's grown up, and I feel like maybe James Maddison, for example, could learn a little bit from Jack Grealish, and Jack Grealish could probably teach him that directly, because remember, there were the wrong headlines about Grealish a few years ago. He was on the street in Magaluf or something like that. He had a bit of laughing gas.
We've all been on the street in Magaluf.
Some nonsense like that.
You must be joking. Where'd you go? South of France?
Nowhere near Magaluf.
Where'd you go? Nice.
What's Magaluf?
Saint-Tropez.
Saint-Tropez. Stop it. No, I've been to the south of France once or twice. None of that passing out, though.
You've got to get to Magaluf once in your life, surely.
You're going to take me, Mark?
No, I'm past it.
I've done
a few days in Benidorm. Have you been there?
I haven't, but I've seen the TV programme. My mum loves it.
Were you there on a pre-season trip, by any chance? Post-season trip?
Guy, one of the main motivating factors about keeping clubs up on the last couple of months, and people say, what's your secrets? What do you do? How do you get those players motivated? How do you get them to win games?
A drink.
Well, the first things you say to them is, right, if we're going to stay up, we will stay up, and on 2 days after the last game, we will all be going to Benidorm.
So hang on, when you take them to Benidorm, are you out there on the strip with your players? Do you get involved?
No.
So
Don't
what?
be silly,
So
I'm
hang on,
mad.
But Mark,
I go mad when those things happen.
No, come on. So do you then have to sit there alone on your hotel room watching Breaking Bad on your iPad while they're out having a laugh? Get involved.
I go out and have a few beers with them, and then I disappear and I go to my room, and you just sit in there and pray nothing serious happens. But the best bit, Johnny, is when you go to the chief exec and say, look, this has been agreed before I came here. We're going to Benidorm. And he says, okay, I found these flights and we've got these hotels, we've got half board. And I said, you got what? He says, half board for breakfast and either lunch or an evening meal. I said, are you serious? He said, no. He said, they've got to eat. I said, I don't think so. I said, we can have half that money that it's going to cost for the food and we'll have it in a player's kitty. So that when we're going out to drink, we can have the...
We don't need food. Liquid lunches.
They come in at 5 o'clock in the morning eating burger and chips and wake up about 11:30 and crawl down to the pool. And the first thing they do is get a bottle of water and a Big Mac. It's like, you don't need all that healthy English breakfast or, salami and cheeses and tomatoes in the mornings. And he says, well, I've got this 4-star or there's this 5-star. We could probably stretch to that if you want. I said, no, thanks. 2-star. Let's go 2-star.
Oh,
simple.
Martin.
So you go in and tell the players, this is where we're going. It's 2-star. There's no food, but half the food bill is now on our drinks bill, and it's 2-star hotel. And they absolutely love it. We virtually win every game, and you stay up. That is the secret for not getting relegation.
Martin Allen, I'm not going on holiday with you.
This is Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Henna men.
Cage.
Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
There are fewer than 20 days to get ready for Brexit. Find out what you need to do to prepare now at gov.uk/Brexit.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centers, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
I have a strong connection with Scotland. I believe my tan shade is iron blue.
Love Sport.
Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts and Magaluf Martin Allen with you until 7, talking about Martin's away trips with teams once he's kept them up. And you had a particularly lively encounter with Brentford, I believe.
Well, that was one of my first ones, Johnny, to be fair. When I went from Barnet to Brentford, there was 9 games to go, and I met one of the directors of Brentford, and he said, well, how are you going to do it? What's your plans? And all that sort of stuff. And I said, well, the only thing that you can do for me, because we can't sign any players, it's the same group, is we want a trip to Dublin on the Sunday after the last game of the season, once we've stayed up. So he said, yeah, no problem. I said, no food, just a cheap hotel, simple. Fly us all over there, we get away, let the boys have a few beers. So he said, yeah, great. So anyway, we got to the Sunday with the game ahead the next weekend against Bristol City. And I thought to myself, we could really do with booking this pretty soon, because if not, we won't be able to play the game finish at 5:15, and then get on the flights and an hotel on the Sunday is going to be impossible. So I drove over to his house, knocked on his door, and he said, "What the hell are you doing at my house? What's going on?" His name's John Harting. He's still there. Lovely guy. Minted, by the way. Absolutely minted. And I said, "John, I need to sit down." And his wife brought in a nice cup of tea on that, those cups and saucers like the Queen has.
Lovely.
All that sort of stuff. So he sat there in front of his fireplace. He said, "How can I help you?" So I said, "Look, we will stay up next Saturday. So I want to book the trip to Dublin for next Sunday morning to give it to all the players." He said, "Well, you've got to get a draw or get a win first, depending on the results, whatever we need." He said, "Oh, then I'm happy to do it." I said, No, you've got it all wrong. I need to tell the players it's booked and we're going." And he went, "I can't understand what you're talking about." So I said, "Well, I believe in the players. I need to show them that we will stay up." And he went, "I see what you're saying." He said, "You can go and tell them then and book it tomorrow afternoon." So I went in, training Monday morning, 10:30. All the players jog over out of the pavilion over to the first team training pitch. I said, "Right, boys, get yourselves ready. I need all your passports, all the numbers on your passports. Get back in, ring your houses, get the telephone numbers, because we're all going to Dublin next Sunday. The flight is 9:30. This is where we're staying for 2 nights. This is the hotel. Everything's going to be booked. We're going." And they all looked at me like quizzically thinking, What? I said, "Yeah, we're all going to Dublin because we will definitely stay up. You have never seen a group of men run as fast off that football pitch back to the dressing rooms to get their mobile phones, to ring their houses and their wives or girlfriends to get their passport numbers so we could ring the travel agent to get the trip booked. In 48 hours, it was all booked. Thankfully, we beat Bristol City. We stayed up, and the next morning, everyone was off to Dublin."
Well, I'm not going to ask you what happened on the trip, but interesting psychological ploy that, Martin, because I thought you had the trip hanging there as a, if you get the result, you'll get the holiday. What's the rationale behind saying you're going whatever happens, we'll book it?
Self-belief. No, not whatever happens.
But
that
we're
didn't
just
come
going
into
to do it.
No, that weren't coming into it.
Yeah.
Not whatever happens. If we do, if we don't, we're still going. We will win.
But had you not won, would you have gone?
That never came into our mindset. And it still's not in my mindset. We were so good. We were so good. There was 9 games. We lost 1 away at Grimsby, and we only lost because the referee blew the whistle far too early before the end of the game. That was his fault that we lost. The rest of it, we were unbeaten. It was awesome. The crowd, you'd never heard 6,000 people sounded like 60,000 every week. It was unbelievable. And to stay up, pitch invasion on the last day, awesome. The next morning, flying out of, I don't think it was Heathrow, it was probably somewhere like Southend or Woking Airport or
Glamorous.
somewhere. Yeah, to the worst airport, worst airplane, worst of everything. Lads all went away. Fantastic time.
Well, it sounds good to me. Talking of departures, we've had a departure from form for Petr Cech. He's not gone to Dublin, he's not gone to Magaluf, he has gone to Guildford, and he's become an ice hockey player, a goalkeeper to be specific, as you would expect. He saved 2 penalties on his ice hockey debut for Guildford Phoenix, earning them a victory against the Swindon Wildcats 2. He's still technical advisor at Chelsea. He's 37. He's making his debut in a new sport, and he is winning his team the game. This is extraordinary.
It is unbelievable. He's got to be 6'5", isn't he?
He is enormous.
And that little goal in ice hockey, it's not very big, is it? It's like a little rabbit hutch, isn't it? It's like,
yeah, but I'm 6'5", and if you put me, and if you put me in ice skates in front of that goal, I wouldn't save anything. I'd just be falling over.
Yeah, but Johnny, with all due respect, you're 6'5". You're a skinny 6'5". You're not like a tank geezer at 6'5". Petr Cech is like huge, isn't he? He is huge. And in one of those little goals on an ice hockey thing, especially with all those pads that he puts on, if you're coming at him and you know it's Petr Cech and he's got all those big pads on, that goal's not going to look very big at all. It's a great move, isn't it, by Guildford? And I'm sure Peter, Do you reckon he's practiced ice skating all through the years? He must have done.
There are rumours, which I must add are unconfirmed, that Petr Cech was actually practising his ice hockey while still a Chelsea player for quite a while, and wouldn't have been meant to, but loved it and was sort of heading down and getting his skates on in the literal sense, and that would perhaps explain his brilliance, having just gone and started training. But we can hear what Petr Cech had to say about his own brilliance now.
I'm glad it happened because, it's a kind of like a childhood dream to come and play one game, which happened. Nobody will ever take this away from me, so which is really nice.
He's a fascinating guy, former best goalkeeper in the world, world-class drummer, by the way. He is really good on a drum kit. Him and Thomas Rositzky have done various very dubious rock covers because Rositzky is a rather handy guitarist. And now, of course, he's an ice hockey player as well. But Petr Cech, not the only former sportsman to go and take up a different sporting pursuit. We were hearing about your cousin Clive Allen earlier in the show, who went and became an NFL kicker. Paolo Maldini, the legendary Italian defender, became a tennis player, an ATP challenger level, by the way, so not too shabby at all. Tim Wiese, the former Dortmund goalkeeper, became a WWE wrestler, as did former Norwich City striker Grant Holt.
Grant Holt was a wrestler?
He is currently a wrestler.
No.
In kind of regional English WWE. It's absolutely bizarre.
Is he good?
Well, it's all scripted, so yes, because he's famous, so Grant Holt wins. I watched his debut. It was him climbing into a ring in jeans and a T-shirt and just battering four men much larger than him. It was absolutely
When you
shocking.
say scripted, is it all fixed?
Yeah, it's a plot line,
Oh,
WWE.
okay.
It's kind of, I've been to see it live, and firstly, the punches aren't real, but they have decided who is going to win beforehand. It's still very dramatic, but this is a fictional pursuit.
There's an interesting bit on WWE today, actually, because you may have seen Tyson Fury's been getting himself involved, hasn't he? He got involved having been a spectator a couple of weeks ago, and it's since been announced that he's going to face Braun Strowman in Saudi Arabia again on October the 31st. Another bit of sport being held out in that part of the world. Not brilliant to see, but it is. I'm sure he's being paid handsomely for it. It's emerged today, and this is an interesting line, this. Frank Warren, his promoter, he says, what can you say? He went out there to watch it, and the next minute he's involved in it. It's unbelievable. He's done it, and we've discussed it afterwards. Frank Warren, it seems, did not know about Tyson Fury's plan to go and take part in WWE. And I think this is really interesting. As some people have said on Twitter, if Anthony Joshua did this, he'd be crucified. They say the different reactions, different standards applied to, say, Tyson Fury and other sportsmen, other boxers, maybe Anthony Joshua in particular. And it's an interesting one because you remember he had that terrible, terrible cut in that defeat against win against Otto Wallen, just a month or so ago.
This is the point, and Fury not allowed to train at the moment for fear of opening up that cut. As I say, a lot of the certainly big hits in wrestling are fake. It's basically very well acted stage fighting, but you do get punched. You get hit quite hard. They are still broadly fighting each other here, and if you are not fit enough to train, to even spar with your boxing, why are you suddenly fit enough to go throwing yourself around a cage with a load of absolutely enormous wrestlers?
It surprises me, Johnny. Another quote from Frank Warren. I'd be lying if I said I was pleased with it. I prefer him not to do it, but he's doing it. Tyson Fury does do what he wants. He's meant to have that rematch, of course, with Deontay Wilder at the start of next year. If he was to do something stupid, get himself injured and put himself out of that fight, even I think his most loyal fans would struggle to be sympathetic about that.
It would be rather Tyson Fury. My personal favourite, by the way, in terms of sportsmen who've taken up a new career, is Ivan Perisic, who still plays, of course. He's currently on loan at Bayern Munich from Inter Milan. He's a professional beach volleyball player as well in his free time. You just think, what? Ivan, where has this come from? Where has this come from? He's not even that tall. He must be quality.
This is Love Sport.
Join former Premier League goalkeeper Richard Lee and Patrick Christys for Love Sport Breakfast every weekday morning from 6:30.
I look at Sven and he's got this certain persona.
Yeah, and he tells quite a funny story about how he beat Fergie 3 times in his career.
And then after all that, he still says, well, I really like Fergie. What a nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Love Sport Breakfast every weekday from 6:30. Listen on digital radio, on the app, and watch the show live on our YouTube channel.
Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centres, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
There are fewer than 20 days to get ready for Brexit. Find out what you need to do to prepare now at gov.uk/Brexit.
Have you had enough of extortionate energy bills? A spokesman said could help you find the cheapest energy deals on the market. Don't take our word for it. There's hundreds of spokesman said customers who've saved big. Brian from Derbyshire saved £400 on his energy bills, and Tony from Northampton saved a massive £2,800 on his gas and electric. A spokesmansaid.com, the leading price comparison site where you can switch to the cheapest energy tariffs on the market in just minutes.
Thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Love Sport.
It's the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. You're with me, Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts, and special guest Martin Allen, the former West Ham midfielder and Brentford and Barnet boss. And Guy has all your latest sporting headlines.
I do, Johnny, yeah. And the top story at the moment, a bit of breaking news. The Press Association are reporting that an England fan, a 32-year-old man, has died in Sofia ahead of tonight's qualifying game against Bulgaria. The circumstances as yet unclear. More on that as we get it. A lot of rumours flying around at the moment. We're doing our best to find out what exactly has happened there. We'll let you know as soon as we find out. Brain injury charity Headway has criticised Wales manager Ryan Giggs over the way a head injury to Dan James was handled in last night's Euro 2020 qualifier against Croatia. Giggs suggested James was acting by staying down after a mid-air collision, but the Manchester United winger eventually returned to the pitch after passing a concussion test. And Anthony Martial could be fit to face Liverpool on Sunday for Manchester United. He's expected to return to training this week, having been injured for the last few games. And in Rugby World Cup news, Ireland centre Bundy Aki has been given a 3-week ban after being sent off against Samoa on Saturday. The suspension rules him out of the rest of the tournament. And in the weather news, I'm afraid not looking great. More rain around this evening, lows of 12 degrees or so overnight tonight. And tomorrow, more showers around and a gentle breeze, highs of 15 or 16 degrees. Lots coming up for you before 6 here on Love Sport Drive. We've got Martin Yelling, a marathon expert and part of the Marathon Talk podcast, coming for you very shortly to talk about an incredible weekend of distance running, and Matt Perry, the former England fullback, to talk all things Rugby World Cup. Stay with us.
This is Love Sport.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centres, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
This is Love Sport.
Tragic to hear about that England fan. As Guy said, rumours flying around left, right and centre. We're not going to speculate about what may have gone on, but as soon as we find out, we will be reporting further on that really sad news. For now, we are talking marathons, because this was a truly extraordinary weekend in the history of distance running. Eliud Kipchoge became the first person in the history of the world to run a marathon in under 2 hours, assisted, of course, by various different means. This was still an incredible achievement, and we saw the women's record broken as well. Paula Radcliffe's had stood for 16 years, and Brigid Kosgei came along and smashed it. We are joined on the line by Martin Yelling, marathon expert and part of the Marathon Talk podcast. Good evening, Martin. Thanks for joining us. Was this the greatest weekend for distance running ever?
Well, it was pretty impressive, wasn't it? You know, looking at it from the outside,
you can see an incredible run by Eliud Kipchoge to become the first man to run under 2 hours for 26.2 miles. And then, of course, an incredibly rapid Sunday from Bridget Kosgei to break Paula Radcliffe's 17-year-old marathon world record. So, yeah, it was pretty impressive in many ways.
That course that he ran for that under sub 2 hour marathon, was it all downhill?
Yeah. Yeah, I know, yeah. Massive,
was it
massive
like a long
fan behind him being pulled by a sledge. Well, it wasn't downhill, but it was a specially made course.
How do you mean, specially made? How did they do that?
Well, I think my understanding is they constructed a surface so that it would be really flat and really smooth for him to run on in the park in Vienna, and it was really straight with big roundabouts at either end, because of course when you're trying to run at a consistent pace, which is what he was trying to do, he was trying to run 100 meters in 17 seconds 422 times back to back at 13 miles an hour, that is. So he's not hanging around for 1 hour and 59 minutes and 40 seconds. But if he had a little tight turn or something in that course, then that would have meant he would have had to have accelerate and decelerate to do that. And of course, he didn't want to do that. So it was very smooth and consistent throughout.
Well, Martin, because everything about this attempt was so controlled and the whole thing was so manicured, it doesn't count as an official time and it doesn't count as the official world record. But do you think it should?
No, I don't. You're right. It wasn't in an open competition. He used a team of rotating pacemakers, and there was a certain amount of contrived feeling about it because of the creation of it as an event. But at the same time, as long as we see it as an event, it was still spectacular to see someone run 26.2 miles marathon distance in under 2 hours, something we've not seen before, regardless of whether it was a bit of a setup.
And Martin, the milestone, if you like, has been compared to quite a lot recently is the Roger Bannister, the 4-minute mile. And obviously in the 60-odd years since that happened, that barrier has sort of ceased to exist. Obviously people are, way below that now, and it's not that much of a big deal if you do go below, in elite athletics terms. But what do you think realistically might be possible now that the 2-hour barrier has been broken, and he did it, within the confines of that quite comfortably, I suppose? How much lower do you think we might be able to go?
Well,
if that's not asking way too much.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because, of course, everything was set up in order for him to specifically run under 2 hours. And they are what makes racing exciting, because none of those things go to plan. And that's why, at its heart, racing in its purest way is exciting, because things don't go right. They go wrong. And the part of the thrill of watching an exciting athletic competition is when it goes wrong and when it's unexpected and when you see people respond to things they're not expecting. And that's probably what makes things a little bit more exciting from a racing point of view. I think it's going to be a while before we see races on the road with large groups of people in organised marathon events, even at the sharpest end, going inside 2 hours. Although, Kenenisa Bekele came close in Berlin recently, running 2:01, and Eliud Kipchoge's run 2:01 himself. So you never know. Get those two in one race on the right day with all the right conditions, and it might go close.
In a funny way, it seems almost unjust that Kipchoge stole all the headlines when his attempt isn't official, because we saw an equally extraordinary run from Brigid Kosgei, who shattered Radcliffe's 16-year-old world record. Absolutely extraordinary. She said she wasn't even expecting to run like that. Just how good was she?
Well, she is fairly rapid.
Technical term is that. Her rise to marathoning at global status has been reasonably meteoric, actually. Her improvements over the last few years have been considerable, and this I don't think it was necessarily unexpected. She was running 5:06 per mile, and she was actually faster than Mo Farah was over, I think, about 30 to 35k in the race. She covered the ground quicker than he did. So she definitely set out with an intention to break Paula Radcliffe's world record, and of course she managed to obliterate it. And from the Mo Farah point of view, obviously we don't want to dwell on the negatives, but he's saying that there is an agenda against him in the press. Is it that complicated, or actually did he just not run like we know he can in Chicago?
Well, there's a lot of complicated things going on, I'm sure, for Mo Farah at the moment, and he's had a stressful few weeks, and I'm sure he's coming to terms with some of those things. And sometimes, when it's like anything, isn't it? If you're a bit unsettled and things haven't gone quite right, it's harder to produce the goods on the day. And it certainly wasn't his day.
It certainly wasn't. Martin, fantastic to speak to you. Thank you for your time. Martin Yelling there, who is a marathon expert and part of the Marathon Talk podcast. Kipchoge makes you feel really, really, really bad about your own capabilities as a human. Because I was looking at it and thinking, you could make me the perfect running track in the perfect Austrian park. You could hand me all of my energy gels straight to my hands. You could give me a £2,000 pair of carbon fibre trainers. And I still probably couldn't even do a marathon at all.
No, but he must have been training from a long, long time, Johnny. How does it make you feel knowing that there was he was on his own? The course has sort of been manufactured to suit the run. No chance of anybody knocking him or balking him. Perfect weather conditions. Is that a world record, or is that not a world record?
Well, I think, to be fair on Kipchoge and the sponsors Nike and Ineos, they never claimed to be setting out to set a world record, and it doesn't count as a world record.
No.
This has always been billed as an experiment, really, an experiment conducted in very controlled conditions just to see if it can be done. If everything comes together, whether the human body can do it.
And has he got the same coach as what Mo Farah had?
I don't think he does.
No, okay.
I don't think Alberto Salazar has been particularly popular with clients in the last week or two.
Okay, yeah. I just wondered if he had that coach,
No, I think Eliud Kipchoge is an athlete who's always done things the right way, and he's
not young either, is he?
34, but with distance runners, we do see them peak at different points. I mean, Mo is 36, which in footballing terms, in most positions...
Mo Farah?
Yeah.
Sir Mo Farah is 36, and he's still going great,
and
isn't he?
Well, we're still expecting very big things of him. We're looking ahead to Tokyo 2020 and thinking, Mo, are you going to sort us out with a couple of medals again, mate?
He'll win gold because he's clean, he's fast, he's fantastic, isn't he, Sir Mo?
He is absolutely brilliant. Lots more on Mo throughout the show. Coming up, we're talking to former England fullback Matt Perry.
Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centres, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
Hi, my name's Kurt Edwards. I work in advertising and live in Surrey. Last year, the family contents insurance was £745. A friend of mine had recommended a spokesmansaid.com. When it came for this year's renewal, I managed to get it for £403. So for those 10 minutes on that website, I saved over £340. Told my family, my friends, you'd be absolutely mad not to give it a go.
Thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
I believe in traditional marriage. I've had 3 of them.
Love Sport.
Sweet love, sweet chariot,
coming for to carry me on. Sweet love, sweet child.
Martin Allen has got his hand on his heart. England, rugby, the World Cup. It's the perfect combination. And those Rugby World Cup quarterfinals are now confirmed. England will play Australia, the old enemy, Martin, next Saturday morning after 2 weeks off. But George Ford says the cancellation of the France game won't affect preparations for the Aussies.
We understand the challenge ahead of us at weekend. And we understand how we've got to prepare for it. So, again, it's on those lads to get really get hold of this week in terms of tactical, but most importantly, making sure we're peaking on Saturday.
At weekend, certainly very, very up for it. Moving on from the distraction and the terrible concerns as well around Typhoon Hagibis, we're very fortunate to be joined on the line by former England fullback Matt Perry. Good evening, Matt. Thanks for joining us. What's your take on England? Australia are a good side, but can we do it?
Good evening, chaps. It's going to be a monumental game. There's nothing worse than a wounded wallaby, and every England-Australia game, there's always a war of words. You see Checker, Jones, already the players are involved in the media, questioning journalism. It's going to be messy, but we know Saturday comes and it's 80 minutes, and I think we can put all the form, out the window on this one. And it's going to be a very physical. First 20 minutes is going to define the whole game, I think. But Australia, they haven't performed particularly well in the pool stages. England are odds-on favourites, but you never know. It's going to be a game which has got everything in it.
We heard from George Ford there. Would you pick him for the quarter-final? Yeah,
I think so. He's been a great player for England. His leadership in that position. He needs Farrell outside him. You can't leave Farrell out. Farrell has to play 12. But Ford's look good on the ball. England have had a lot of ball going forward. If they're slightly rocked, and that's where Ford can be his slight weakness if he's on the back foot. Him making decisions under pressure will be tested this weekend in a test match, which will go to a kind of different level of intensity. So he has to play. We'll just see whether this England team has learnt enough over the last 4 years. They're quite an established side now, whether they can actually execute at the right times and make good decisions when they're under pressure.
And the extra week that we've had to recover, will that help, or is that prolonging the gap between game to game and make it rusty and make it difficult to make that first 20 minutes that you talk about so important?
I don't think it makes much of a difference, really. I mean, when you get on that pitch, in a game like this, you've got so much adrenaline, you've got so much going through your mind. Just try and singly look at the first 20 minutes, top three things that you're trying to achieve as a team. England will enjoy that rest, but Australia, they're ready for it as well. They're players of a week or 2 weeks. I don't think it matters. It just just got to get into the game and hopefully enjoy it.
And Vunipola, do you think he'll be fit because he was struggling for last weekend? Would the extra week have helped him?
Yeah, it will definitely. There's some key players there. They played. Vinipola's played a lot. He's played a lot of rugby. He, by all accounts, Eddie Jones likes to play him. When he's playing, he's on form, and he's had a lot of minutes. But he's a key man for England. They go forward from the base at number 8. I expect him to play. He'll have a slight rest, but he's a player who needs to be playing, and this game will show it.
England fans are, of course, going to have half an eye on those other quarter-finals. Japan with a more favourable run to the final than they might have had. And are we going to be hoping that the Irish can do us a favour here? Because if they could take care of the All Blacks nice and early, it would make life a bit easier.
Well, they have beaten the Kiwis twice, haven't they, in years gone by? So there's no reason why they can't do it again. These games now are like a knockout. It just takes the mentality of the players, all 15 players, to be really up for it at the right time. The margin of the talent in these teams is very small. It's just how they go about their jobs, the execution, doing the right things at the right time. But you've got 15 players on the pitch, and it doesn't matter how big you are. you've got to go out there and front up. And I love Japan. I mean, they've been absolutely brilliant. I love what they've done in their preparation.
Is that just because they knocked Scotland out?
Well, I see all the jokes about yeah, obviously. I did call it. I thought they beat Scotland. Didn't think they beat Ireland, but you just look, their discipline and the way they play the game. They've got this great technical ability, but they open it up as well. So, I mean, it's a great World Cup. You wouldn't expect Japan to be there, but it just shows that they beat South Africa before as well. So we could have a really interesting mix. But England, Australia this weekend is going to be massive.
Absolutely, yeah. Our hearts bleed for Scotland, of course they do. But you look at that Scotland, that Japan South Africa rematch, you just think, wow, what a quarterfinal. And I'm seeing from some places, Matt, some people saying, Japan have done this 2 World Cups in a row now. These aren't fluke results. It's almost insulting or patronising to talk about giant killings and upsets because they're on that level now, and possibly the Southern Hemisphere should, I know Japan's technically in the Northern Hemisphere, but maybe they should join the Rugby Championship, maybe even Fiji as well. I know it's sort of a massive topic and it's not one we can solve sitting here, but do you think there is genuine momentum gathering behind that, and could we see that happen in the next couple of years?
Yeah, big time. As I know, and I'm sure we all know as sports fans, it's about earning the right. Japan have earned the right at the highest level. And they deserve a seat at the top table, if you ask me. I'm interested they spent 200 plus days together as a unit, as a team, and they've actually had a strategy with their coaching staff and their philosophy that keeping their team together. They'll know each other really well. They look each other in the eye. They know their strengths. They know how they can play the game. They keep the ball really well. And they've beaten Ireland and Scotland, 2 of the top 5 teams, So, definitely, I think they deserve it. And, they could beat South Africa, but South Africa will be so physical in that game too.
Matt, how, when you say that they've had their team together for 200 odd days, is that in a training camp or is that away from their families? What's a bit more of the detail on that? Do you know?
Yeah, no. Well, they've actually, so the Sunwolves, who obviously part of the Super Rugby, have played within that competition, but they've actually kept the Japanese side playing lower level teams. Not the intensity of individuals going from the Japanese side into either Sunwolves or some playing in New Zealand, and they've kept that team together to actually just form and mobilise as a team over the last year. I've only learnt that in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
But it's quite a clever strategy from Joseph.
So they've trained together all the time, stayed together. Is that right?
Yeah, by all accounts, yeah. And you can see it. You can see they're a team that knows each other and exploit the space at the right time, and they're technically brilliant in the line out as well.
It's paying off, isn't it? Who's going to win it, Matt?
Well, the whole thing.
The whole thing.
New Zealand should win it. They have an ability to go from 80 to 100%. Score 3 tries in 10 minutes. They've done it before.
Do you think they'll beat us? Do you seriously think they'll beat us, Matt?
No, I didn't say that. I said they should.
I like that.
I'm going from my head to my heart here. So they should, but they're also, they've got weakness. So that's if it's England New Zealand semi-final. I think we can do it. I think we've got the team to do it. I think if we don't, we've got to beat Australia. But it will show whether the England team have learned enough. They're a settled team. This is the time. This is the moment. Go out there, perform at your best, know your roles, know your technical ability, make the right decisions at the right time, beat Australia, and then you can definitely beat the All Blacks. But the All Blacks, just their footballing ability, and if they really hit the straps, they should. They should win the whole thing because they're just technically a brilliant side.
Matt, I think we need you in that dressing room giving the team talks. Amazing. Great to speak to you as well. Thank you for your time. Matt Perry, the former England fullback. You're confident, aren't you, Martin?
Quite confident.
Oh, hang on a minute. You're hedging, are you?
When I watched us play, I thought we played quite well, but I didn't sit there thinking, oh, my God, we're awesome. When you see the All Blacks play, it's like, oh my God, they are such a powerhouse. And seeing the Japanese play the other day against Scotland, as much as I really wanted Japan to win, I think
the intensity, I think that when they hit their top level, I think they've looked better than us.
Yeah.
I think they've looked better, arguably, than any team except the All Blacks, dare I say it. And I know that sounds a little bit dramatic, but what I mean is...
I don't think it does.
When it clicks for them, they are as good as anyone. And they haven't beaten Japan and Scotland and Ireland by fluke. Yeah, they didn't beat South Africa 4 years ago even by fluke. They are a good team now. I think they're going to give South Africa a real game because I think South Africa have been pegged back from where they were at the start of the tournament. That defeat to New Zealand and then a few easy games after that. I don't think they're at full kind of gas, whereas I think Japan are, and I think Japan are going to be so up for it. I think that's going to be a great quarterfinal.
And with the backing of their fans.
100%.
And that little winger that they've got, he's got a strange name, a crazy name.
Fukuoka, isn't it?
Yes, something like that. It depends how you say it.
Yes, it does.
He is quick he is quick. When he gets the ball, he leaves people behind by 5 yards. And what do they call it? A finisher. He finishes opportunities. And he's going to be tough to beat.
100%.
Do I think we'll win? Without a shadow of a doubt. Bring those All Black... Oh, we'll beat the Aussies.
You've got to get past the Aussies first.
We'll
Do
beat
not write
them.
off. But I'll tell you what would be interesting. 4 years ago, we had 4 Southern Hemisphere teams in the semi-finals of the World Cup. I think this time around, we could quite feasibly have 3 Northern Hemisphere teams in the semi-finals. It'd be a nice sort of little momentum shift back to the Northern Hemisphere.
Where does Japan fit into that? North or south?
Northern. Let's hope they can do a job on the Saffers, eh?
This is Love Sport.
Every day someone dies waiting for a transplant. From spring 2020, the law around organ donation in England is changing to allow more people to pass on more organs to save more lives. Unless you choose to opt out or in an excluded group, all adults will be considered as a possible organ donor when they die. Whatever your choice, make it clear to your family and closest friends to ensure your decision is honoured. To find out more or for the choice to opt out, visit organdonation.nhs.uk. Pass it on.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centres, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support. Right there with you.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
Coming up on Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive, we've got a great hour coming up for you. We're going to be talking to Nick Fry, the former CEO of the Mercedes F1 team, after Mercedes equal Ferrari's record of 6 constructors' titles in a row. It is quite extraordinary. Are they the most dominant team we've ever seen? Well, you'd have to say Lewis Hamilton still isn't happy, but it looks like just a formality as to whether he'll win the driver's title to boot. We're also talking Gareth Southgate and England. How will we set up against Bulgaria? How are we going to get on? And we're also going to have an update on this tragic situation that has reportedly seen an England fan die out in Sofia. Really, really sad news there. More on Mo Farah and the Athletics. He's not happy with the media, and frankly, we aren't massively happy with him either. But first of all, it's time for your latest news.
On digital radio, online, mobile, and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 6. Boris Johnson has vowed to get Brexit done and made promises to toughen up on immigration and violent crime. But it's unlikely many of the announcements in his Queen's speech will become a reality, as he doesn't have a majority in the Commons. After Her Majesty officially opened Parliament earlier, Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn criticised the PM's proposals.
A propaganda exercise that the government cannot disguise. The Prime Minister promised that this Queen's speech would dazzle us. On closer inspection, Mr. Speaker, it is nothing more than fool's gold.
A terrorist who wanted to kill as many people as possible when he ploughed into cyclists and police officers outside the Houses of Parliament has been jailed for life. Sally Cater deliberately crashed his car on the 14th of August last year. Body cam footage from that day shows officers checking he didn't have a suicide belt on.
Hello, you okay? You need to get out of the car, all right?
Yeah, make sure he's not wearing anything. What you got on you?
Pass me your hand. There's nothing there.
He'll spend at least 15 years behind bars. A British man who officials say was behaving aggressively has died in Sofia ahead of England's Euro 2020 qualifier with Bulgaria tonight. The 32-year-old is said to have been raging and threatening when he was taken to hospital after being found by police this morning. Police here are currently treating the death of one of Britain's worst paedophiles as suspicious. Richard Huckle died at HMP Full Sutton in Yorkshire yesterday. A homeless man from Spain has been found guilty of stalking Harry Styles. The 26-year-old spent months camped outside the singer's house, who said he felt scared and very uncomfortable. And in sport, Northern Ireland have just got their international friendly against the Czech Republic underway. Manager Michael O'Neill has made 6 changes to the team that lost to the Netherlands last week. Later, England look to bounce back from their first qualifying defeat in 10 years when they faced Bulgaria in that Euro 2020 group game. That's the latest. I'm Andy Hayes.
Love Sport Radio, on digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive.
Good evening, you're listening to the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. You with me, Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts and special guest Martin Allen, the former West Ham midfielder, Brentford and Barnet boss to boot. And our top stories this evening: Gareth Southgate is to ring the changes for England's game against Bulgaria tonight, with Tyrone Mings set to make his England debut. And Mo Farah flops in Chicago after accusing the British press of having an agenda against him on a historic weekend for marathon running. But as you may have heard in the news there, we've got some tragic breaking news developing out of Sofia, which is the reports that an England football fan has died in Bulgaria after being found in a helpless condition. That's being reported by the Daily Telegraph, who is stating that a 32-year-old fan has died over there in Bulgaria. No confirmation of quite what has gone on. There is a suggestion that drugs may have been involved, but a spokeswoman for the Bulgarian Ministry of Interior said she cannot confirm those local reports. There's all kinds of speculation going on in social media, and I think it would be largely improper for us to speculate about quite what has happened to this poor man. But whatever the backdrop to his death is, this is awful, Martin.
Yeah, someone's very, very sadly lost their life going to watch, our fantastic England. I'm very proud to be an England fan. To lose their life whilst going away to watch our team play. It's very, very sad. But like you say, Johnny, we don't know the circumstances. But I would say, whatever the circumstances, it is sad because he's only 32 years old, which is very, very sad.
It's very true. And the Daily Telegraph are reporting there are other incidents involving England fans that have taken place over in Sofia. They say that the Foreign and Commonwealth Office said it was unable to verify the death of this gentleman, but confirmed that another man had been injured in a separate incident. And that, of course, comes days after England supporters clashed with police in Prague. And there are also reports, according to the Telegraph, which I hadn't actually heard of in social media, that a fight broke out in a bar England fans had taken over since arriving in Sofia. The Telegraph report that a chair was thrown and bottles smashed before police moved in to restrain one man before another was led away bloodied with his right wrist wrapped in an England scarf. They say it was unclear whether the assailant was local or another travelling supporter.
Yeah, and just that other detail that was included, you may have heard it in the news about this chap that's died. It's apparently said that he was behaving aggressively. He was said to have been raging and threatening when found by police this morning. So all quite vague, but what the picture that we're hearing is painting whether it's those details that we're hearing about the 32-year-old fan who sadly passed away today, or whether it's about the fans that have been causing trouble in a bar. The point is whether or not the person who came away with his wrist wrapped in an England scarf was in fact Bulgarian or English. You feel like these incidents would only be happening with England there. You know what I mean? Whether it's, in fact, Bulgarians who have ended up getting hurt, or if it's, English people who have been hurt by Bulgarians, whichever way around it is, this trouble is happening because England fans are there. And we heard about a bit of it in Prague, and that was on Friday night. And, of course, this game in particular, the Bulgaria one, has, let's be quite honest, been stoked up a little bit, probably accidentally, by some of the comments from the England players that Bulgarian FA and players and manager have taken quite badly. Suggestions that it was going to be racism, that the players might need to walk off. They said there's more racism in the English game. That's basically what the Bulgarian manager said. And obviously, this is all totally separate. This is potentially fan trouble, but at the same time, you feel like what was potentially already a little bit of a feisty occasion might have been made a little bit more so, and maybe that's contributed to what it sounds like quite an unpleasant atmosphere in Sofia. I've never been to the city. I don't know an awful lot about it, but I imagine if it's like a lot of other Eastern European cities, it's quite cheap. It's easy to buy cheap drink and all that kind of thing, and that there will have been a lot of England fans who have gone possibly purely, as I think they do everywhere, just to, essentially have a drink and cause a bit of trouble.
Well, I don't
think they all cause trouble.
No, it is a minority.
I think it's a minority. It's fueled by alcohol, and then a bit of rivalry comes in. They've probably had the whole day there. Started off in good nature and a bit of fun, and then a few comments maybe here and there, and all of a sudden something can happen and it kicks off. But whatever happens, a 32-year-old, young, 32's young, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's losing his life over there supporting England. It's horrible to think about for his family who are probably, being told late this afternoon what has happened to their loved one. And whatever the circumstances of it, even if he was in trouble, all blah, 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 but we don't know, all speculation, it is still sad.
It is, and it's sad that this seems to happen around England fans. As you say, it's a minority. I know a lot of guys who follow England home and away. I know a lot of guys who are out there in Sofia at the moment. We've got a few here in the Love Sport office. And certainly everything I'd seen from them on social media was photos of Sofia looking like a really beautiful city, having a really good time, not actually necessarily getting on the beers before lunch, genuinely enjoying the cultural offerings of Sofia as well. But Guy's point does hold. It seems like England fans always do end up involved in trouble in a way that other countries just don't.
It doesn't need to be a big group. It really doesn't, because the point is, you're talking about out of a total of thousands, there's going to be 40 thousand people at this game tonight. Say 10% of those are England fans. Say 10% of those England fans are looking for trouble. That's still 400 people, 400 drunk, loud people, probably congregated in the same relatively small part of a city. Let's be honest, a square with maybe England flag slightly provocatively hung up somewhere, or where they're not meant to be. That is actually a lot of people in the normal context of life, not out of the total number of people going to the game, but that's a lot of people to be out looking for trouble.
Yeah, it could just be in one bar, Guy, couldn't it?
Could, yeah.
It could be one bar off the main square, cobbled, beautiful architecture, beautiful old history. One bar, too many drinks. Someone says something that someone don't like. Bang, 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 smashes up. Police are called. All of a sudden, someone's been stabbed or killed or hit with a bottle, and all of a sudden, it's everyone gets tarred with the same brush.
And then if you say to someone, on air or off air or whatever, you say, I follow England away, people automatically, I think, a little bit associate you with that. And that's not to say at all that is fair or right, but it is what you think, because if there is one thing, unfortunately, you associate, even now, even still, years on from the worst of hooliganism, with England fans, especially England fans that go away, it is that sort of behaviour. And, I wouldn't even rule out that this is only between England fans that there's been some violence and trouble.
Well, these are the rumours, and they're, in a funny way, the most troubling rumours. Let's be honest here. I love watching England. I love watching England more than I love watching my club side. I watch every single England game, but I would never go and watch England away. And I'm sure that most of the guys that do are lovely and sensible and safe, but there are always stories like this. There are always clips that appear on Twitter of clashes with the police, and there are always, well, there are very rarely tragedies on this scale, it has to be said, but I wouldn't feel comfortable going. And
I've
this
been
kind
away
of
with
story
England.
doesn't help that.
I've been away with England a couple of times to South Africa to watch them play in the World Cup, and it's an amazing feeling when you're in another country and you're following your team. It is an amazing. The night before the games, some of the bars are just singing all great English songs. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. You turn up there patriotic, loving it, all singing together, and you're kind of it's an amazing feeling. And I was also lucky enough when I played for England under 21s away in a country called Yugoslavia, and the night of the game, after the under-21 game, we went to the full stadium in Belgrade in a ratty-tatty old bus in a dark night with mist and rain to watch the national team play, with a police escort of sirens going around our bus to the stadium, all with the England under-21s, all of us in it, turning up at the stadium to watch us play. We were in a little corner of the stadium, and obviously getting all those goals so quickly, but the noise, the atmosphere, and seeing our team win on foreign territory, it was one of the best games I've ever seen.
It can be extraordinary. It's just a shame sometimes there are problems. We'll have updates on this situation for you as they get them, and coming up, we're going to be focusing on the positive side of the England national team.
Love sport.
Every day someone dies waiting for a transplant. From spring 2020, the law around organ donation in England is changing to allow more people to pass on more organs to save more lives. Unless you choose to opt out or in an excluded group, all adults will be considered as a possible organ donor when they die. Whatever your choice, make it clear to your family and closest friends to ensure your decision is honoured. To find out more, or for the choice to opt out, visit organdonation.nhs.uk. Pass it on.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centres, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
Can you save money on your energy bills? Tony did, with help from a spokesman said.com. Getting people real savings.
I'm Tony from Northampton. My bills for gas and electricity had gone straight through the roof. I chose a spokesman said, and they saved me £2,800. It was so easy, I used them for my house and contents insurance too.
For help saving money on your energy bills, go to a spokesman said.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
I told Melania that she draws her eyebrows on far too high. She looked so surprised.
This is Love Sport.
Well, there's a big game tonight for England in Sofia, even if at least part of the story is going to be about tragedy and fans causing trouble again. But on the pitch, the team could qualify for Euro 2020 with a victory, and captain Harry Kane says he expects to see a response from the side tonight after losing to the Czech Republic on Friday.
If we win, we're still in a fantastic position going into the last two games. So as players, you always reflect on your own performance, the team performance. How can I do better? How can I help my team? And I think we've all done that. And the only way to show that is going out there and putting in a good performance.
By the way, Northern Ireland are already 1-0 up against the Czech Republic in a friendly, 15 minutes gone. If they can do it, why couldn't we? With that in mind, Gareth Southgate is going to make some changes for the game tonight. He could make quite a few. Martin, what changes would you make?
Well, I think they need to freshen it up just a little bit, with this game. Danny Rose, I think at the moment he's just struggling a little bit for club and for country, and I think I'd replace him with Chilwell. Pope's been doing really well, the goalkeeper, but maybe staying with Pickford, that might just upset the apple cart too much. I was interested to see that he's picked Mings instead of Tomori from Chelsea, another young lad who I've seen play. quick as he's so quick across the grass on that back four. He's a good player at Chelsea, so I'm surprised he's not been put in, and Mings has been given his chance. But Alexander-Arnold, I definitely played him at right back, and in the midfield I probably would have gone in there for Harry Winks, because he can get the ball and pass it and help us keep possession better than what we did in the last game. And Rashford coming in away from home, I can see why Gareth Southgate has done that with his pace, fresh legs to get in behind. I think that's a good call at the moment, and hopefully Rashford can give us that threat and pace that's going to create and score goals. But then the dodgy position is, or the question mark, is this number 10 playing behind Harry Kane, helping our two central midfield players. It was who would play in that role. Would it be Mason Mount? But he made his debut the other day, so it's probably right to pull him back out of it. And Barkley, I saw him play against Brighton a couple of weeks ago for Chelsea, and he was superb, absolutely superb. So Gareth's picked him tonight. Let's hope he can thread some magic through for Sterling, Rashford and Kane. And who's going to play behind them? Well, I think it's got to be Henderson, even though he got took off for Liverpool last week, didn't he, when he looked a little bit tired, and Milner took his place.
Uncharacteristically dodgy against the Czech Republic as well.
Yeah, and he got took off for Liverpool, didn't he, last week, and Milner took his place. So I think he's just sort of hanging on to his place. But again, he's a European champion. He's a captain of a winning team, so he perhaps is the experience they need to play in these games, because he has got that in abundance. I'm really looking forward to tonight, and I think it'll be. I think we'll win 3-0, Johnny.
I'm actually with you, Martin, for once. That makes a change, doesn't it? We'll have team news for you from that England game very, very shortly. But time now to talk a bit of Formula One after Mercedes sealed an incredible 6th Constructors' title in a row at the Japanese Grand Prix yesterday. That equals the Ferrari record. Nick Fry is former CEO of the Mercedes F1 team, and he joins us on the line now. Good evening, Nick. An extraordinary achievement. Is this the strongest team we've ever seen?
I think it probably is, and congratulations to everyone at Mercedes who have done a wonderful job. Great, I guess, if you're a Mercedes fan, but I think it also, on the other side of the coin, highlights the issues with Formula One, that one team can win so many times in a row, and of course, only 3 teams have ever won a race in the last 5 years. So great for Mercedes, but highlights the challenges the sport has got.
When you were there all those years ago, could you see the foundations for this kind of success being laid?
Yeah, I think that it's built over a very long period of time. I mean, this is like one of those pop groups that suddenly, has great success. But in fact, there's 20 years of work beforehand, which lays the foundations. And, some of the people who are at the forefront of the team that perhaps you don't see on television every week. Ron Meadows, the team manager, Andrew Shovlin is one of the chief engineers, James Vowles, who does the strategy. These are people who have held roughly the same job since 2001 or 2002. So it's a hugely experienced team which has built very nicely, back with, of course, large investments. Honda ran the team for a long time and invested in a lot of the wonderful equipment that they've got. That's been taken on by Mercedes, who invested very heavily in the team. So this is something that's built over 20 plus years, but on the other hand, the current team members have done just a great job keeping the whole thing going, which is incredibly difficult.
And of course, Niki Lauda was an absolutely huge figure at Mercedes. His cap and headphones still hang there to be seen by everyone when they walk in. Just how important was he? How huge a figure was he in building this kind of success?
Well, I think the first thing he did was, of course, instigate and approve the hiring of Lewis Hamilton. That's something that I spoke about in my book at some length, which was something which took a long period of time. But pretty much the first day Nicky arrived at the team as the chairman, he just said, kind of go do it, and we'll ask for apologies. We'll apologise later for what we've done. So I think Nicky deserves a huge amount of credit because he is someone who is a leader. He makes decisions. He's very black and white about the way he operates, and that's what you need in a Formula One environment.
And with Lewis Hamilton now going on to his sixth title, he doesn't, for me, get enough credit for how well he's done over the years. He's never seemed to have taken to the British public, haven't really taken to him. Wonder why is that?
Well, I think it doesn't help when you live abroad and fly around in a private plane, which really is part and parcel of what he has to do to get effectively or efficiently between the two places. But it doesn't really mean that you're going to be loved by the British public. I mean, he hasn't done what, say, Virgil van Dijk has evidently done, which is invest very heavily in the local community and be part of the community. This is someone who lives most of the time abroad and socializes with hip hop artists and the like, which is unfortunate because I think he does deserve massive credit. I mean, a driver of his caliber will take a car that deserves maybe second or third place, and he'll make it win because he is that good. So I think he does deserve a hell of a lot more credit than he is currently getting, but maybe there's things that he can do to improve his public profile as well.
Well, Hamilton's been pretty grumpy in the last couple of days after that strategic error at the Japanese Grand Prix. But still, only his own teammate Bottas can stop him from winning an individual sixth world title. Can anybody realistically get in his way from here?
No, I think that's almost impossible to conceive of. And if he does win again, which I think he will, then I think he does deserve it without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, Valtteri is a wonderful driver, and it's very unfortunate that he should be in the same team as a superstar like Lewis. But Lewis is a cut above Valtteri and probably all the other drivers on the grid, and he does deserve to win, and I'm sure he will win, and I think he deserves huge credit. And it's the reason he's grumpy is that he's not happy unless he wins, and things haven't quite gone his way in the last race, but I'm sure at Mexico, the next race or the race after, he'll have achieved his title, which is just a massive achievement.
Nick, there's something I want to ask you. It might sound a little bit random, but it's something that's always quizzed me with these Formula One drivers. Say, for argument's sake, Lewis has got to go down to Tesco's to get his shopping for the week ahead. And he goes down and gets in his car and he pops down his first set of traffic lights, and there's a couple of cars next to him, and he's looking to the right and he's looking to the left. When it goes green, does he fly down the road and woof, and leave the other car behind, or does he just drive like wheel drive?
Well, I think the reality is he drives more safely than the rest of us.
Does he?
These guys get their kicks driving, a 1,000 horsepower car on a race circuit. And in fact, in my experience, and I've been fortunate enough to be in a car with people like Lewis and the great Michael Schumacher and many other drivers. And in my experience, they drive very sedately, probably disappointingly so for
me,
for race fans, but or for you. But they're very safe and secure drivers because they know that they're in something extremely dangerous, and as I say, they get their excitement driving something far more exciting than a road car.
That said, I would quite like to see what Lewis could do with my mum's polo, but there we go. Hamilton sounds a bit sceptical about clinching the title in Mexico. He's saying it's more likely to happen in America. Do you think that's likely?
Yeah, I think it probably is. I mean, although the top teams are very good and very competitive at every circuit, achieving the championship in Mexico is probably going to be difficult. It's probably not the favourite place for him or the car, but Austin, Texas is somewhere where he's been very successful. It's almost his adopted homeland. So I think probably from his point of view, winning in Austin and the party that goes after it is probably the best place for him as well.
I think you're absolutely spot on, Nick. A pleasure to speak to you as always. Just finally, a word on your new book, which is absolutely wonderful, with the profits going to charity as well. Tell us a bit about that and where people can grab it.
Yeah, go online on Amazon. I guess it's the easiest way. It's called Survive, Drive, Win. It's about the 2009 season, but more than that, it's about working with some of the greats of the sport: Bernie Ecclestone, Michael Schumacher, Bernie Ecclestone, and so on and so forth. And I think it's quite a racy story, which people who aren't Formula One fans will enjoy as much as those who are Formula One fans. And as you say, I hope for tomorrow a great charity which helps people with cancer are going to get some of the proceeds. Race Against Dementia, Jackie Stewart's charity for dementia sufferers, and the Halo Project in Guildford, where Damon Hill gives them a lot of help for kids with disabilities and trying to help them stand on their own 2 feet and live a life, as independently as they can. So, 3 really strong charities. So if your Uncle Fred or your Aunt Maud likes Formula One, then it's an ideal Christmas present.
It's a great read as well. Nick, a pleasure to speak to you as always. Thank you for your time. Nick Fry there, former CEO of the Mercedes F1 team. And talking of winning teams, we've got the England team news for you. It's official. Pickford does start in net, Martin. We've got a back 4 of Kieran Trippier rather than Trent. Maguire and Mings, of course, start in central defence. Chilwell comes in for Danny Rose at left back. Thank everything that is holy. It's a midfield 3 of Barkley, Winks and Henderson, and a front 3 of Rashford, Sterling and Kane. What do you make of that? Barkley does get the nod ahead of Mason Mount. What's that going to do for the youngsters' confidence?
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah, he'll be absolutely fine. He's made his debut. Fantastic opportunity for him. I think he played okay, but I don't think the team played as well as it could do to help him on his debut. The only surprise I can see in that squad is Alexander-Arnold not playing in that team. That's the only surprise for me, where I'd have thought that would have been, I thought that would have been a banker, to be perfectly honest with you. Trippier's done well at Atletico from what I've seen on TV. I haven't seen him play live, live. I've seen him on TV, but not seeing him is a bit different. And Mings, I can see that because they were poor on set plays, and it's going to be a big game tonight for England. And Gareth will be hoping there's a, what do they call it, a bounce back after that performance the other day. He'd been disappointed with that performance, and giving some new players fresh legs, fresh mind, fresh energy. Get out there, get the win. And I'm sure Madison will be watching it from the casino tonight.
Yeah, well said. Firstly, 2 things just to say. I'm reading Survive, Drive, Win. Nick's book, really, really enjoying it. I would definitely recommend it. But back to the football, I just wanted to make a comparison. I know comparing apples with oranges isn't a particularly good idea, but it does sort of spring to mind. We're starting Tyrone Mings. He's making his England debut in a European qualifier that isn't must-win or anything like that, but it's reasonably important. We could really do with not losing this game. It's his first ever England game, of course. And Angus Fraser, the former England cricketer, joined us in the summer. I think we were talking about Dom Sibley and Zach Crawley and some of these young openers saying, should they come in? And he said from his time as a selector, if you were giving someone a debut sort of halfway through an Ashes series, you probably hadn't done your job particularly well. And as I say, I know it's a comparison and they're not particularly helpful some of the time, but in this situation, you're throwing someone into a hostile away atmosphere in a reasonably important qualifying game for his first England appearance. Is that a risk from Southgate? Is that a reflection on the fact that he's not really sure on who his best centre-back is? We've seen Joe Gomez, we've seen, of course, Michael Keane, and now Tyrone Mings start all in the last few months.
Well, he's got to try something, Guy, because on set plays at the weekend, as we all saw, you don't need to be any sort of pro-licensed coach.
No.
Wide free kicks, crosses going into our box. We looked very vulnerable. He needs to replace Keane, whose record with Everton at the moment on corners and set plays is also poor. So he's got to do something. He's got to make that change. And I think it's the right decision. When he's saying it, Angus Fraser saying in the middle of 5 test matches, this is not actually at the moment the most important time. The important time will come when it comes to the tournament, and how are we going to win it? That is what they're putting together now. How are we going to put a team to challenge Holland, Germany, Italy to win that tournament? That is what this is about. It's not just, and you've got to go through these experiences. And with Mings, I reckon he is a proper leader of people. He's not one to sort of look over his shoulder. His chin's up, his head's up. And I think Johnny brought it up earlier this afternoon when his right back, whatever his name was at Aston.
Anwar El Ghazi, right winger.
El Ghazi never tracked a fullback, I think it was, for Aston Villa. He went over there and he pointed his finger at him, and El Ghazi came back at him with a bit, and I think he stepped over and said, "Oi, you do your job." If you know that winning desire, that mentality, that leadership, that we all love to see that, don't we?
We do.
all love to see that. So I think it is a good move to put him in.
It's a risk, but as you say, Martin, it's risk-reward. And when you're talking about set pieces, it's not just defending them. Northern Ireland are currently 2-0 up against the Czech Republic, who beat England on Friday. Who are their goal scorers? Paddy McNair, centre-half, and Johnny Evans, centre-half. This is a place where we can capitalise, and having 6'5" Tyrone Mings in there, I think can't hurt.
This is Love Sport. Join former Premier League goalkeeper Richard Lee and Patrick Christys for Love Sport Breakfast every weekday morning from 6:30.
I look at Sven and he's got this certain persona.
Yeah, and he tells quite a funny story about how he beat Fergie 3 times in his career.
And then after all that, he still says, "Well, I really like Fergie. What a nice guy."
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Love Sport Breakfast every weekday from 6:30. Listen on digital radio, on the app, and watch the show live on our YouTube channel. Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centers, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. This means that travelling to the EU will change. You'll need to check online if your passport is valid for travel to Europe. If you're planning on driving, you'll need to check if you have the right documents to drive. And make sure your travel insurance covers all your healthcare needs. To keep your trip on track, check what you need to do at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
I'm Leslie from North Essex. I couldn't believe that after 5 minutes I'd saved over £900 on my energy bills. When my car insurance was then due for renewal, I went back to a spokesman said and reduced my premium by over £500. I thought that my home insurance was expensive. When I shopped around on a spokesman said, I saved a staggering £1,100. I've saved £2,500. I cannot believe it was that easy.
A spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
Love Sport.
It's the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. You're with me, Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts, and special guest Martin Allen until 7. And Guy's got all your latest sporting headlines.
It's been reported that an England fan has died in Sofia ahead of tonight's qualifying game against Bulgaria. The 32-year-old had travelled to Sofia with friends to watch tonight's Euro 2020 qualifier. The circumstances, though, the exact circumstances are as yet unknown. If we get any more detail in the next 20 minutes or so, we will bring it to you, of course. For the game itself, Gareth Southgate has made 5 changes to the England team that lost to the Czech Republic in Prague on Friday night. Ben Chilwell, Tyrone Mings, who's making his debut, Ross Barkley, Harry Winks and Marcus Rashford come in. Danny Rose, who's suspended, plus Michael Keane, Mason Mount, Declan Rice and Jadon Sancho all drop out. And brain injury charity Headway has criticised Wales manager Ryan Giggs over the way a head injury to Daniel James was handled in last night's Euro 2020 qualifier against Croatia. Giggs suggested James was acting by staying down after a mid-air collision. The Manchester United winger eventually returned to the pitch after passing a concussion test. And in Rugby World Cup news, Ireland centre Bundy Aki has been given a 3-week ban after being sent off against Samoa on Saturday. The suspension rules him out of the rest of the tournament. And in your weather, I'm afraid, doesn't look great, although possibly a little bit less wet than today. Tomorrow, highs of 15 or 16 degrees, but still some showers around. Could be a little bit drier into the afternoon and evening, though. Tonight, lows of 11 degrees and some more rain around, I'm afraid, for most of us. That's the latest here on Love Sport Drive. Very shortly, talking a bit more Ronnie O'Sullivan, who seems to have done a bit of a U-turn on his stance about playing tournaments in China. Plus, he's back at the venue that he accused of smelling of urine last year. More on that in a moment.
This is Love Sport.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centres, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
Love Sport.
Ronnie O'Sullivan previously criticised the amount of travelling that pro snooker players have to do. Now he's saying he wants to play 80% of his competitions in China on grounds that they're big events and he really enjoys travelling there. We're joined on the line by Nick Metcalf, sports journalist for the Metro covering snooker. Good evening, Nick. Thank you for joining us. What's changed for Ronnie? Why has he changed his tune?
Well, the thing about O'Sullivan is that, with some people in sport and in public life, you probably wait until the next day to hear them contradict themselves. With Ronnie, it could be sentence to sentence. You've got to remember that. And with Ronnie, you've got to take a lot of things he says with a pinch of salt. But yeah, you're right. He has in the past complained about the amount of travelling that's involved for the modern snooker professional, and talked about cutting down a lot on his events and how he'll play in the average season. Now he's saying he likes China. I mean, in fairness to O'Sullivan, one thing he's been consistent about is he does genuinely enjoy playing in China. He has been saying that for some time. I think he enjoys the country, enjoys the culture there. He's got a great record there, and they are the kind of events O'Sullivan enjoys. The top 16, top 32 events, really big money events. They're the ones that he does thrive in. Contrast to something like this week where he's got 128 players at the English Open. Those are the kind of events that I think he finds a bit more of a grind, really. But, the undercurrent a lot of the times with O'Sullivan is, what's the background here? Of course, he's promoting a television program. So, the more controversial and the more headline grabbing, the better. His last interview a few months ago, he is promoting a book, and he said that he wouldn't play in any of the Triple Crown events again, and he might never play in the World Championship again for the rest of his career. Now he's saying this, so with O'Sullivan, we love it in snooker. We love it because it puts it at the forefront of people's attention. People like yourselves are interested talking about it. But yeah, you've always got to take what Ronnie says with them. Perhaps not even a pinch of salt, but perhaps there's kind of vat of salt.
Well, the total prize money at the English Open is £400,000. The total prize money at the China Championship is £750,000. The total prize money at the International Championship in China is £800,000, and the total prize money at the World Open in China is £772,000. Only 3 tournaments, those are the Triple Crown events, Masters, UK Championships and World Championships, have more prize money than those in China. So if we're being honest, is Ronnie O'Sullivan just following his wallet here?
To some extent, definitely. And I think a lot of the top pros will admit they're kind of very much attracted by those big events in China now, because there's so much money going into them, and it's potentially very lucrative if you win 3 or 4 of those. In a couple of years spell, you're doing very well indeed. Of course, it's partly that. I say, as I kind of already said, a little bit in O'Sullivan's defence, he likes that kind of big stage, big players. They're the ones he gets up for more, which is why he's always traditionally done so well at the Masters in London, which is a 16-player only event. I think he finds the kind of the very big kind of multiplayer, multi-table events not perhaps not beneath him is not quite the right kind of phrase. I think in fairness that's not quite what he's saying, but I think he feels that he's been around so long now at the top of the game that he just likes to have the kind of big attention, big events. But yeah, there's an element of money, of course there is. But another interesting thing, actually, perhaps more tellingly than all this, that Ronnie did say in the same interview that he could go on for another 15 years. So while he's on one hand saying I don't want to play in so many events, or only play on certain events, he's also saying to go on till he's nearly 60.
I'll play once a year in China forever. That sounds like a good deal to me. Let's touch on the English Open as well. Ronnie O'Sullivan in action versus Jamie O'Neill tonight. Ronnie, of course, back at the K2 in Crawley, where he criticised the same venue for smelling of urine last year. Do you reckon they're going to be welcoming him back with a fanfare?
Well, they probably will, because O'Sullivan's such a bizarre one-off that he's a bit of a Teflon man, really, and probably a lot of that will probably be forgotten. He did say it smelt of urine. He also called it a hellhole. Now, I've seen the K2 in Crawley. I mean, it's not the world's most salubrious venue, but it's not a hellhole, in fairness. And again, you see, this is the thing about O'Sullivan. Some of Fleet Street's finest went to that event last year. They wouldn't have been anywhere near the place had O'Sullivan not made those comments. But that's the kind of quandary I think we find ourselves in the sport, that he puts bums on seats, he puts headlines in newspapers. But no, I mean, I think he backtracked a little bit as the week went on last year, and he's certainly been quiet on that front so far about the venue. So let's hope that it's the snooker that takes centre stage this week. They've gone back to Crawley. There are only so many events that you can hold these. There's so many venues you can hold these multi-table, multiplayer events in. So they've gone back to the K2 club, who, by all accounts, have took it in very good heart last year, because they could have been quite miffed, really. They're having the name of that place paraded all around newspapers, and not in a very positive way. But no, O'Sullivan's back tonight, as you say, playing the role number 105, so it should be a comfortable enough night for him. And just a quick one among the other winners today, Judd Trump through the world champion, beating Peter Ebdon 4-0, and also wins for Mark Selby and the champion Stuart Bingham.
Well, lots to keep our eyes on in the world of snooker. Nick, great to chat to you. Thank you for your time. Nick Metcalf there, who is a sports journalist for the Metro covering snooker. Now, we've got the news into the studio that Spurs have re-signed Michel Vorm on a contract until the end of the season. Martin, do you think he's coming in as first choice or backup to the gorgeous Paolo Gazzaniga?
Well, it's crazy, isn't it? A club as big as Tottenham, European champion finalists, have got to sign at this point another goalkeeper. Surely you'd have thought there'd have been an extra third goalkeeper already on the books rather than a young player, someone that could just step in. They gave him a free transfer, didn't they, at the end of last season? Crikey, with all the money that they've generated, you'd have thought that they'd have just given him a one-year deal, even if it's a third, fourth goalkeeper, just to be in the background in case something like this happened, like what has done to Lloris. And as we're talking, Northern Ireland have gone 3-0 up. Can you believe it, Johnny? They beat us and now they're 3-0. They'll be calling for the manager to get the sack the next day.
Michael O'Neill for England. How about that?
Well, yeah, more
Michael O'Neill for England.
Is Gareth Southgate under pressure now, Martin?
I knew you was going to say that.
It's taken 3.5 hours.
I've waited, I've bided my time. Is he?
No, of course he's not, Johnny. Johnny, where did you get that idea from? Every time a manager loses his game, I woke up the other morning having nightmares. 3 o'clock in the morning, cold sweat, bolt upright in my bed, and there was Johnny saying, do you think Pep Guardiola's under pressure?
Do you dream
because
about
they
me
lost
often,
the game?
Martin?
No, not very often. But it's not a dream.
He didn't say
It's
dream.
a nightmare. It's a nightmare every time any manager loses. But he's spent so much money, Martin. Yes, Johnny, he has. Now, I went back to sleep and I woke up thinking, oh my God, was that a nightmare? Did I have a dream? And it was Johnny talking about Pep Guardiola getting the sack after they lost at home against Wolves. It's just not going to happen. And with Gareth Southgate, he is putting in exactly what he said was going to happen, and that was to give young players a chance, play this style of football. And you can see tonight from Northern Ireland, they played out with their skin. Czech Republic the other day played a bigger, better game than they've ever played in their lives to play against England. There's hardly anyone there tonight watching that game. Yeah, great result for Northern Ireland. Well done. When it comes to the big stuff, let's see, where it really happens is when the competition happens. And I agree with you, Guy. That's not a bad call. Michael O'Neill has not got a bigger job in the Premier League. I do not know.
Well, let's hope England can do the business tonight as well.
Giving your team a voice. Love Sport Radio.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Cancer. It can affect anyone. And when it does, Macmillan are right there to support them. From the moment of diagnosis, we offer physical, financial, and emotional support. And it's your donations that make it possible. So we can be on the phone, in hospitals, running support centres, and ready to help people deal with the fallout. We are funded by you, the public. So please give what you can at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support, right there with you.
Are you paying way too much for your energy bills? A spokesman said could help you save big money. With electricity costs continuing to rise, you could save hundreds of pounds by shopping around. Just go to aspokesmansaid.com and look for the very best value energy deals on the market. Don't waste your hard-earned cash. You could be on a much cheaper deal. Go to aspokesmansaid.com.
Fighting for you, saving you money.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
Last time I was in the UK, I met national treasure Mary Berry's grandmother, Elderberry.
This is Love Sport.
Well, we're just an hour away from kickoff in Bulgaria versus England, and a reminder for you of that England team. Jordan Pickford starts in net. It's a back four of Trippier, Chilwell, Maguire, and of course the new man Tyrone Mings making his debut. A midfield three of Harry Winks, Jordan Henderson and Ross Barkley, and that front three of Marcus Rashford, Harry Kane and Raheem Sterling. Lots to look forward to in tonight's fixture, but we're joined in the studio by Matt Beadle, who's going to be carrying you forward from 7 o'clock with, of course, lots of England updates and the Love Sport fan shows from 7 till 8. It's Arsenal. What's coming up?
Plenty coming up. To be fair, that's the first time I've heard that lineup. And the main talking point from tonight's fan shows is going to be Tyrone Mings, because we've got Aston Villa at 10 p.m. and they will be buzzing about that. I was speaking to the guys
earlier.
If
he hasn't scored an own goal by 10.
Well, let's hope not. Why would he score an own goal by 10?
I don't know. It could happen.
Crikey, Johnny. Unbelievable, isn't it?
We support England, and you're sitting there with a big grin on your face talking about our centre-back making his debut. Oh, as long as he hasn't got an own goal by 10 o'clock.
Typical.
Posh voice. What's that all about? We support England.
We do, and we're going to win however many own goals get scored.
As long as he hasn't got an own
That's
goal
unbelievable.
by
I don't know
10
why I
o'clock.
came in here, to be
Matt,
honest.
let's talk to me.
Yeah. So,
Isn't it
basically,
great that Mings is playing?
brilliant.
I bet those
Buzzing
Villa
for the
fans
lad.
can't wait, can
About
they?
4 years ago, he's in the 9th tier of English football. Now he's at England International.
What a great story.
Unbelievable.
I'm really looking forward to watching him play
me too.
tonight.
Me too. He's going to score a goal in
From
the
a-
opposition.
from a corner, free kick.
A towering header.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely.
Well, that sounds great. In the Arsenal...
Hi, Johnny.
Hi, lads. Thanks for letting me back in, unlocking the door. What's coming up in the Arsenal fan
Arsenal fan show. So we'll be keeping tabs on that England game. Of course, no Arsenal player in that starting lineup. So we may discuss that. We've had Dave Seeger on the line. He has a lot to talk about Liverpool's formation perhaps being utilised by Unai Emery. He thinks that there's an opportunity for Emery to just get all his best players on the pitch and go with Lacazette, Pepe and Aubameyang in a front three similar to Liverpool, with Lacazette playing that Roberto Firmino role.
Yeah, I think he's probably got a very good point there. Pepe, of course, in goal-scoring form for the Ivory Coast on international duty.
Did you see the goal?
Taps it in from a yard away, but they all count, Matt Beadle. From 8 o'clock, it is the Brentford fan show. What's the feeling there?
The feeling is up and down, as it has been all season. They come in one week, they're buzzing. They come in the next week, they're not so buzzing. But the main bit that I want to talk about is the new kit. Have you seen this?
No.
Martin. So a new kit is going to be worn in the clash with Millwall this weekend. And basically, it pays homage to their first ever win at Griffin Park, which was in 1904 over Millwall. This weekend's opponents are Millwall, of course, and Brentford against Millwall are going to be in blue. At home, at Griffin Park.
What shade of blue?
It's like a dark navy blue. The kit, actually,
so
is
Millwall
lovely.
blue?
Yeah, to an extent, yes. And Millwall have agreed to wear their away strip, so not their customary blue, because it's last season at Griffin Park. First team they ever beat at Griffin Park.
If you're Millwall,
it's an interesting one, isn't it?
Do you want to commemorate a defeat for Millwall?
Well, that's why I want to talk about it. I think it's quite interesting in the sense that that Brentford are going to be wearing blue at home against Millwall, because I'm presuming that that's what they were wearing on that day.
Yeah, well done, but I'm not sure I actually buy that. I don't. How much do you want to? How significant is that day to actually change the strip of our team to blue?
I'll tell you how significant it is.
QPR
to the
playing blue.
True. It's significant to the tune of £60 in the club shop is how significant it is.
60 quid, what, for a shirt in blue?
Well, West Ham did this a couple of seasons ago. Do you remember? They brought out, I think it was a black kit. It was a really nice kit, but they brought it out for one game and one game only. And obviously, supporters loved the kit, so they went and brought it. But ultimately, it was a bit of a marketing ploy.
Yeah, it all sounds a little bit commercial for my taste. From 9 o'clock, Man City, of course, keeping tabs on a certain Mr. Raheem Sterling, the main man for England now.
Is he the main man, do you think, Raheem
he
Sterling?
I really think he is.
What you normally say about Man City, because they've just lost at home against Wolves 2-0, he grills me every time. He says, Martin, do you think Pep Guardiola's now under pressure? You know, with that posh voice, Matt, that I can't.
It's uncanny.
Once I've turned into Prince Harry.
So, asking that question, saying Sterling's top man, I can't get my head around that, Johnny, because all you keep saying to me is, do you think Pep Guardiola's under pressure? Because they've just lost against Wolves, obviously. So what do the City fans think about their form at the moment?
They're always positive, City, and they've continually said, like show after show, we've got ages to go. We've got plenty of time to go. Liverpool are going to drop points. But my concern is that it's going to come down to those two games. And if they don't beat Liverpool in one of those two games, they've not won the league.
No.
I think it's as simple as that. And to answer your question, Johnny, about Raheem Sterling, do I think he's England's main man? Brutal honesty is no, I don't. I don't think Raheem Sterling's got enough in him. A very good player, absolutely, but I don't think he's got enough in him to carry a side. A very good player in that Manchester City side, because he's surrounded by world-class superstars. He's not surrounded by that in England's team.
No, I think that's a very good point. Then from 10, it's the Villa fan show. Of course, all eyes on Tyrone Mings. But might there be a bit of chat about some other players in that team as well?
Indeed.
I read an article today, a tactical breakdown of the role that marvellous Nakamba has been playing for Villa, talking about just how good he's been. I think some of those more industrious midfield players who aren't getting headlines necessarily have been great for Dean Smith.
Absolutely. And Nakamba, we spoke about him quite a lot, actually, on last week's show, because there's always going to be comparisons to that kind of combative, interception-based midfielder like Idrissa Gana Gueye and N'Golo Kante. And Marvellous Nakamba is very similar to those two. So he's gained lots of plaudits at Villa already this season. We're going to be doing a bit of nostalgia as well this week, because it's an international break. We'll talk about John McGinn, of course, and his hat-trick, which was wonderful, and Tyrone Mings, hopefully, if he does score the goal that we think he's going to score, Martin. But we're also going to look back to good starts that Villa have had over the years, and as far back as 98-99, that season with John Gregory at the helm, when they were absolutely flying. Win, top of the league, and then it all went horribly wrong.
It did, didn't it?
Well, that sounds like a
good guy, John Gregory, though. Really good guy. Yeah,
nice guy.
Encountered him a lot at
Good
Wickham.
player.
Yeah.
Final show of the night, Derby fan show, 10:30 till 11. Have we moved beyond the drama yet?
Yes, we have. It's all a bit boring now, to be honest. We kind of
need another crisis.
Not that particular subject is boring. I mean, we stuck a pin in it last week. You know, Mason Bennett came out and apologised, as did Tom Lawrence as well. Tom Lawrence scored, of course, and didn't really celebrate. So we discussed all of that. On tonight's show, we've got Keller Roos. We've done a chat with Keller Roos, the current Derby goalkeeper. So he talks about how he broke into the English game. Of course, he was at Ajax and PSV as a youngster. Didn't really feel the love for football whilst in Holland, and basically said it was his dream to come to England. Used to watch Match of the Day, Peter Schmeichel, Edwin van der Sar, Fabian Barthez. So came over, obviously went to Nuneaton Town in non-league and got various trials at Liverpool, at Arsenal, at Birmingham, Bristol City, plenty of different clubs, and eventually got picked up by Derby, but had to wait about 4 or 5 years to actually make his debut, his league debut, which of course he did last season under Frank Lampard.
Matt, it sounds like a cracking few